Chapter 1324. No one knew better than Ziqing how much effort Jade Gui had poured into his unborn child. Back then, Jade Gui had sat side by side with her on the stone peak, watching the clouds flow. At that time, Jade Gui had turned his head and smiled at her. "Sister Z, you are my most cherished friend. No matter what my child's surname is in the future, my child's name is Qingzi. It represents our sisterly relationship, and also my expectations for this little fellow." Ziqing almost broke down at the thought. To protect her role as the head of the family, Ziqing tried her best to hold back her emotions. She reached out and patted the little fox's head. "Little K, if it wasn't for Radiance's majesty holding the sun hostage, the sun wouldn't have sent down just one sun chain. It wouldn't have been 3 but 9. To a fae that has awakened the celestial jade spider's bloodline, 9 sun chains would be like a hot spring. But to Xueqing, whose bloodline hasn't been awakened yet, it would be a fatal blow. Xueqing would be instantly burned to ashes by the 9 sun chains." The little fox wagged its tail when it heard Ziqing. It engraved Ziqing's words deeply in its heart. Suddenly, the little fox thought of something and asked Ziqing anxiously. "Aunt Z, we heaven's favored spirits are fays that are born to uphold all things in nature. Little sister Xueqing and Uncle Xue Shua both have the celestial jade spider's bloodline. Will there be any problems? Uncle Xue Shua talks about Aunt Yu Gui and little sister Xueqing every day. Will he?" At this point, the little fox quickly shut up and didn't dare to continue. The dojo masters behind the little fox frowned at the same time. Based on everyone's understanding of Xue Shua, the situation little K mentioned might really be something he would do. Knowing that his child was still alive, Xue Shua was probably ecstatic to the point of madness. He wanted nothing more than to give his everything to his daughter. Xue Shua had awakened the celestial jade spider's bloodline and completely fused it with the scarlet tarantula's bloodline. Now, Xue Shua was publicly recognized as the 17th dojo master of Heaven's favored dojo. Everyone had established a deep bond with Xue Shua. None of them wanted him to sacrifice himself in such a way. These young dojo masters were extremely anxious, but some of the older dojo masters were not anxious at all. It was obvious that these old dojo masters knew more than the new dojo masters. The short-haired woman, Ochre Deer, who had comforted Li Luo previously, was an old dojo master. "Sister Ziqing, calculate the time. Even if Blue Lotus, White Phoenix, and Xue Shua travel at full speed and don't stop on the way, they won't be able to reach the Radiance Federation by now. Plus, Xue Shua left with his hatred for the tower cannon. Sister Yu Gui watched Lan Lian and Bai Feng grow up. Their hatred for the tower cannon is no less than Xue Shua's. They will definitely find trouble with the pagoda cannon along the way. It's impossible for them to reach the Radiance Federation in a short time. However, these fellows are extremely worried. Little Rijuo's tears are falling again. Why don't you tell them about Sister Yu Gui's bloodline? That way they won't have to worry so much." Hearing this, Ziqing sighed lightly. Every time this matter was mentioned, it was like the wound in Ziqing's heart that hadn't healed was fiercely torn open. But since Ochre Deer had said this, he looked at the worried gazes of Li Luo, Zhu Bing, and the others. Ziqing took a deep breath and said, "Zhu Bing, I remember that when you first came of age, you fought against Yu Gui and won half a move from him. After that, you excitedly told everyone you met that you've become stronger, right?" Hearing Ziqing's words, Zhu Bing immediately lowered her head. Zhu Bing didn't feel ashamed because Ziqing mentioned that she had just come of age. At this moment, Zhu Bing was really missing the Jade Gui, thinking about how it had taken care of her in every possible way. She was a big sister who was as warm as a mother. At this moment, Zhu Bing heard Ziqing continue. "Yu Gui's power has always been on par with mine. When we fought against Yu Gui in the early days, we both won and lost 50-50. At this point, Ziqing paused for a moment. Without waiting for the crowd to react, Ziqing continued. The jade sundial is different from you. You can only absorb one type of natural energy, but the jade sundial absorbs two types of natural energy from the sun. The jade sundial has always been absorbing light and heat energy from the sun, but slowly, the jade sundial discovered that these two types of energy originate from the same source, but are fundamentally different. Scorching light can generate heat, but the power of light is far more than just heat. Heat generates fire. Fire can cover up light, but it can also generate light. The relationship between light and heat complements and restrains each other made the jade sundial realize that the paths of light and heat cannot be walked together. Heat comes from fire, and the potential of light is stronger than heat in all aspects. Therefore, the jade sundial chose fire, and placed the potential of light in the bloodline, giving it all to the children. So, although it seems that Shueisha and Xueqing each have half of the Tiankue jade spider bloodline, in fact, Shueisha has received the heat part of the bloodline, while Xueqing has inherited the light part of the bloodline. The jade sundial divided the bloodline, allowing the Tiankue jade spider bloodline to exist in two parts at the same time. Stay in the guest house for the time being. Hui Yao has done us such a great favor. Shueisha, Lanlian, and Bai Feng can't return it. I will make a trip to Hui Yao and have an audience with the Moon Empress and Her Holiness. Before I return, Ochre Deer will manage all the matters of the heaven-blessed dojo. If there's anything, discuss it with Ochre Deer. The pagoda cannon and our heaven-blessed dojo are already at each other's throat. Try not to go out alone during this period of time, and don't let the pagoda cannon seize the opportunity. At this point, Ziqing's eyes narrowed. Because of the jade sundial, Ziqing went to the pagoda building Sacred Land where the pagoda cannon was located. During that battle, Ziqing risked serious injuries to inject 3 amethyst precursors into the Page of Destiny. Even if the Page of Destiny didn't die, his injuries would be much more serious than Ziqing's. But after the incident, there was no disturbance in the pagoda building Sacred Land. It was as if the Page of Destiny's injuries were insignificant to the pagoda cannon. Moreover, Ziqing had gone to the pagoda building Sacred Land in anger and fought with the 8 pages. The 8 pages of the pagoda cannon were slightly weaker than Ziqing. In Ziqing's memories, the pagoda cannon of 3,000 years ago had 8 pages. The first page was crimson, the second page was aureole, and the third page was cyanosis. But now, of the 8 pages of the pagoda cannon, the first page was destiny, the second page was revival, and the third page was eternal sin. The current pagoda cannon was completely different from the pagoda cannon of 3,000 years ago. Putting everything else aside, even the crimson page and the third page of cyanosis would die. It was impossible for something as disgusting and evil as the second page of aureole and candle to die. To the second page of aureole and candle, 3,000 years was a small matter. Ziqing felt that the interior of the pagoda cannon was revealing an indescribable strangeness. This was the reason why Ziqing had specifically said a few words before he left. End of this chapter. Chapter 13:26. Night Leaning Moon was disturbed by Zhuaming's words and withdrew her aura. However, the worry and graveness in his eyes did not lessen at all. Night Leaning Moon said to Zhuaming after a while, "Next time, tell old Lu not to ask for instructions. Outside, everything is decided by Jie. Just do what little Jie tells him to do. I've heard that Ji Chongding's youngest disciple, and he, doesn't get along with any of His Holiness's disciples. Whenever he sees any His Holiness's disciple of the same age, he would inevitably fight. If little Jie was the only one on the island, little Jie would have to fight and he. If the two sides have another dispute after the war, it's not impossible for them to go to war. But Sai Moon's disciple is on the island. That old bootlicker Ji Chongding's disciple can't do anything to Lin Yuan. There are some things that Ji Chongding would have said to his disciples. These are all trivial matters. Tell old Lu that he doesn't need to worry about little Jia. Tell him to withdraw from Stormy Wave City as soon as possible." At this point, Night Leaning Moon's tone changed, becoming terrifyingly low. Night Leaning Moon tilted her head and glanced at Zwaming before asking with a trembling voice, "Zwaming, how's the investigation going?" Zwaming hesitated for a while and looked at Night Leaning Moon's expression. In the end, he still told them what he had discovered. "Chief Guard, I went to ask His Holiness Cicada Cry about that matter, but His Holiness Cicada Cry didn't see me and told me to leave. Then, I went to see the old man as you instructed. When the old man knew why I came, he didn't ask me to stay and play chess as usual." The old man sighed and said he was tired. Then he dozed off on the chair. At this point, Zwaming no longer spoke. The matter that the chief guard had asked him to investigate involved the Moon Empress, and it was a very sensitive matter. To be honest, the chief guard did not have the right to investigate such matters. Under normal circumstances, regardless of whether the matter was true or not, His Holiness Cicada Cry and that old man would come to find out that the bureau chief was investigating this matter. He wanted to ask the chief guard if she had heard any rumors and why she was investigating this matter. His Holiness Cicada Cry and that old man should be getting anxious. However, when His Holiness Cicada Cry and that old man found out about the chief guard's investigation, they were shocked. He didn't question or deny it. Instead, he took an evasive attitude. The reason behind this was self-evident. Zwaming shuddered at the thought of the chief guard and the Moon Empress friendship. The bureau chief must have confirmed the suspicions accumulated over the past 10 years through the attitudes of His Holiness Cicada Cry and that old man. When Night Leaning Moon heard Cicada Ming's words, her starry eyes suddenly closed. When she opened her eyes again, the liveliness in Night Leaning Moon's eyes had turned into a deathly stillness. Night Leaning Moon's body trembled slightly. In the end, her entire person was like a withered yellow leaf on the iron chain bridge. Night Leaning Moon clenched her fists tightly, and the bones in her hands made a loud noise. He thought about how the Moon Empress had been overcautious and indecisive when dealing with matters over the past 10 years. It was as if she had lost her original temperament. Especially after the Moon Empress accepted Lin Yuan as her disciple, everything she did was to pave the way for Lin Yuan. It was as though she was dealing with funeral matters. This Moon Empress was completely different from the Moon Empress in Night Leaning Moon's memories. In Night Leaning Moon's memories, the Moon Empress should have a temperament that could surpass the heavens and act decisively. Even if she would hold an umbrella for her disciple, she would hope that her disciple could do his best to fight for a future. Tracing back to the source of the Moon Empress abnormality, Night Leaning Moon thought about the confrontation with the Freedom Federation 10 years ago. The situation of this confrontation was made into a scroll and sealed in the Imperial Court's secret scroll pavilion. After Night Leaning Moon found out, she used the Spirit Guard's information as an excuse. She carefully checked the scroll of the confrontation between the Radiance and the Freedom Federation 10 years ago. During that conflict 10 years ago, she had led people to subdue the carcinoma phase that were wreaking havoc in the Radiance Federation. Thus, Night Leaning Moon did not understand the situation of that conflict. After checking the scroll, Night Leaning Moon realized that the contents seemed to be coherent. However, there were too many things that should have been recorded in detail. Such a situation should not exist in a scroll that focused on recording facts. This meant that the contents of the scroll had been modified. At that time, the Moon Empress had killed 3 of the Freedom Federation's top experts by herself. It was a fact that she had been injured. When the Moon Empress had been injured, Night Leaning Moon had specially visited her. However, the Moon Empress didn't see her back then, and Night Leaning Moon felt that it was very strange. Night Leaning Moon's suspicions had been growing for a long time. According to the information that Night Leaning Moon had found over the past year, she was gradually approaching the truth of the matter. Letting Zwaming meet the cicadas and the old man was Night Leaning Moon's last test. A gust of wind blew across the iron chain bridge, causing it to shake incessantly. But when the iron chain bridge shook, Night-Leaning Moon's body was already standing straight. Night-Leaning Moon asked Zhuaming in a low voice as she looked up at the two moons in the sky. Zhuaming, is Xie Dan the one leading the Freedom Federation's envoys to Radiance? Zhuaming felt goosebumps all over his body. Zhuaming had been by Night-Leaning Moon's side for nearly 40 years, so he believed that he knew her very well. Night-Leaning Moon was an extremely calm and just person. But such people were more hysterical than any other kind of people in the world when they went crazy. They were the first to know about the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission to Radiance. Zhuaming also learned about it from Night-Leaning Moon. Now, Night-Leaning Moon was asking herself whether Xie Dan was leading the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. The meaning behind it was self-evident. Zhuaming braced himself and said, "Chief Guard, the Freedom Federation's leader is Xie Dan." Zhuaming asked in a probing manner, "Chief Guard, if you want to confirm the Moon Empress's matter, why don't you ask her personally? If you really can't, you can ask His Holiness Cicadas and the old man." Night-Leaning Moon shook her head gently. "Moon is so proud. How can I touch her scar at this time?" Zhuaming, find all the treasures that can increase one's lifespan in my treasury and send them to the Radiant Moon Palace for Dark Moon. Let Dark Moon decide how to handle it. I will stay in the Imperial Court for this period of time. You and Yuzha can handle the spirit guards as usual." After speaking, Night-Leaning Moon's figure disappeared from the iron chain bridge. While the sun chain and the moonlight chain were in a stalemate, the 9 sun chains that were not blocked by the moonlight chain became increasingly resplendent. Gradually, the orange color in the sun chains was replaced by a bright white light. The orange color around the Mother of Bloodbath was also suffused with a dazzling white light. ABC. Chapter 1327. White waves of light washed out from the Mother of Bloodbath's body. The orange color around the Mother of Bloodbath's body faded little by little. Gradually, the orange dress on the Mother of Bloodbath's body turned dazzling white. The tens of thousands of spots of light released by the dress seemed to be crowning the Mother of Bloodbath, celebrating the birth of a favored spirit of the sun. Lin Yuan looked at the Mother of Bloodbath, whose fierceness had faded, and its aura had become abnormally gentle. It was as if he was looking at a cold beauty who had suddenly become gentle. However, Lin Yuan knew that all this was on the surface. The evolution of a phase bloodline could change its appearance and temperament, but it could not change its personality. Therefore, the Mother of Bloodbath's personality before and after would still be the same. There would not be the slightest change. The moment the crescent moon Psi card bloomed with light, Lin Yuan's heart was at ease. He knew that the bright moon in the sky could eliminate all external influences for the Mother of Bloodbath. The Mother of Bloodbath only needed to rely on its own ability to awaken the celestial jade spider's bloodline. Later, the crescent moon Psi card shattered, and a red moon rose into the sky. It let Lin Yuan see how powerful his master, the Moon Empress, was. It had to be known that she was not fighting with humans but with the heavens. In the process of fighting against the heavens, she did not fall into the slightest disadvantage. The 2 bright moons successfully withstood the 100 chains from the sun's eruption. When he saw the red moon, Lin Yuan knew through the void shadow demon that it was the moon that had disappeared in the Abyss world. A Class 6 Abyss Rift had opened in the Radiance Federation, although it had not been officially opened to the public yet. His master, the Moon Empress, had undoubtedly gone in many times. The red moon in the Abyss world had obviously been taken away by the Moon Empress and became a part of her strength. He wanted her to take the moon in the Abyss world for her own use. Lin Yuan suddenly thought of the blue moon hanging in the sky at night in the Swamp world. If the Moon Empress could take away the red moon in the Abyss world, it should not be a problem to take away the blue moon in the Swamp world. Lin Yuan secretly wondered if he should bring the Moon Empress to the Swamp world and use the Cyan moon in the Swamp world to let her increase her strength. At that time, when his master, the Moon Empress, showed her prowess, there would be 3 months in the same sky. All of a sudden, he recalled the previous question and answer session. When he asked his master about the Moon Empress spirit of heavenly blessing, the Moon Empress had said, "You don't have to worry about the spirit of heavenly blessing. Master will always be your backing." What did that mean? He had always been worried about the Mother of Bloodbath's awakening of the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline. On one hand, he was worried about whether the Mother of Bloodbath could successfully awaken its bloodline and become a favored spirit. The Moon Empress had already given the Crescent Moon Psi card to the Mother of Bloodbath. With the Crescent Moon Psi card, Lin Yuan indeed had nothing to worry about. On the other hand, he was worried that if the news of a favored spirit by his side spread, it would have a serious impact on him. He had even threatened the safety of Lu Jie, Wen Yu, and Chu Ci. After all, the existence of the heavenly chosen spirit was extremely important. No matter how powerful one's background and backing were, it was hard to guarantee that someone would not secretly tamper with it. This was Lin Yuan's original thought, but he was clearly overthinking now. This was because the Moon Empress had used the phenomenon of 2 moons in the sky, which could be seen by the entire world, to tell everyone in the world that the chosen spirit was related to her. This method was equivalent to getting rid of Lin Yuan completely. Even if any faction or person had designs on the favored spirit in the Radiance continent, they could only look for the Moon Empress. It turned out that unknowingly, the Moon Empress had already made plans for him, and he was currently commanding the suppressing Mountain Kuei with complicated feelings to drive away the sea creatures that had not been taken away by the nether floating hat insect. After the shark Mang died and the storm calmed down, Lu Jie ordered the insect queen. He ordered the nether floating hat insect queen and the reef lice queen to let the eggs hatch to self-destruct. A large number of deaths of the reef lice queen would cause the calcified layer secreted by the reef lice queen to be instantly weathered. The weathered calcified layer at the bottom of the sea was completely exposed. At that moment, Anhe's desolation bloodline Fei, the suppressing Mountain Kuei, could already sense the earth elemental energy at the bottom of the sea. Upon discovering this situation, Anhe specially dived to the bottom of the sea to investigate. As a disciple of His Holiness, Anhe was a hermit, but he still had the necessary eyesight. Looking at the large area of the weathered calcified layer at the bottom of the sea, Anhe immediately thought of the reef lice queen. Anhe had never been to the Nyx assembly, so he did not even know who Lin Yuan was. Naturally, he did not know Lin Yuan's methods. He only thought that he was unlucky. However, this discovery made Anhe's heart start to be unconvinced by Lin Yuan. If not for the calcified layer secreted by the reef lice queen, which blocked the earth elemental energy at the bottom of the sea, the suppressing Mountain Kuei could have summoned mountains from the sea during that battle. The suppressing Mountain Kuei could summon thousands of mountains at full power. At that time, the suppressing Mountain Kuei's defense would be greatly enhanced by the thousands of mountains. He could completely let the suppressing Mountain Kuei use its shield to completely resist the flock of crows that Lin Yuan had released with the sacred source lifeform. At that time, it was not certain who would win or lose. Lin Yuan had said that he could still unleash such an attack, but before Lin Yuan had done so, Anhe would not have believed it. Lin Yuan's current strength at his age was already enough to be considered a monster. If Lin Yuan could still unleash such an attack, then wouldn't the other disciples of His Holiness, who were in their 20s, have lived their lives in vain? And he was thinking indignantly, but the next scene almost made him choke to death on his own saliva. Every attack of the waves that Lin Yuan summoned with his sword was enough to destroy the hundreds of mountains that the suppressing Mountain Kuei had summoned. The giant whale that leaped out of the sea at the end shocked Anhe and made him completely convinced of Lin Yuan's strength. If Lin Yuan had unleashed such an attack on him from the start, his suppressing Mountain Kuei would have been killed by Lin Yuan's attack. And he took a deep look at Lin Yuan. His mentality had changed a lot after the battle with Lin Yuan. Originally, and he hoped that when he ran for the Radiant's envoy position, he could suppress Lin Yuan in terms of strength through the past 2 years of hard work. But now, and he hoped that through hard work, he would not be left too far behind by Lin Yuan. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath, which was like a sun goddess, suddenly opened its eyes under the 9 sun chains. What the mother of Bloodbath was about to do next would be the most important choice in its life. The mother of Bloodbath had now absorbed enough light energy from the sun. Using the world grace that descended after the world cleansing, it was already a matter of time before it became a favored spirit. Chapter 1328. In addition to the newly awakened Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline, the mother of Bloodbath also had its original Scarlet Tarantula bloodline. Next, the mother of Bloodbath had to weigh how the 2 bloodlines should coexist perfectly in its body. The ratio of the 2 bloodlines would determine the direction in which the mother of Bloodbath's abilities should evolve. While the mother of Bloodbath was thinking, the Myth 3 world cleansing was dispersed by the Void Shadow Demon's intervention. In the hole in the sky, the world grace had formed. The mother of Bloodbath had no parents since it was young. From the time it could remember, it had faced the unknown cruel natural environment alone and carefully survived. It was not until it reached gold that it often avoided danger on Endless Summer. Only then did the mother of Bloodbath's life improve. During the years it lived on Endless Summer until it reached Diamond, the mother of Bloodbath had seen countless Fey families pass by under Endless Summer's tree. In the face of predators, some Fey parents struggled to resist. This made the mother of Bloodbath understand that some parents who gave birth to little Feys would be willing to sacrifice their lives to protect the little Fey's safety. The mother of Bloodbath longed for kinship, but it could not be obtained by longing. Now, the mother of Bloodbath could truly feel the existence of its parents through the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline and the Scarlet Tarantula bloodline. Since this was the case, the mother of Bloodbath simply compressed the 2 bloodlines. The Scarlet Tarantula bloodline and the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline each occupied 50% of its bloodline. After making the decision, the mother of Bloodbath rose into the air. It welcomed the world grace that descended from the hole in the sky. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's white crown was suddenly inlaid with a few blood-red gems. Immediately afterward, a large blood-red pattern appeared on the mother of Bloodbath's white dress. The collision of red and white made the mother of Bloodbath's originally gentle temperament instantly become flirtatious. Lin Yuan looked at the mother of Bloodbath's dual-colored eyes and felt that the mother of Bloodbath's face was breathtakingly beautiful. Suddenly, the 3 red water blood snakes that it had turned into blood bones drilled out from behind the mother of Bloodbath. These red water blood snakes all had the hornless dragon bloodline. After being strengthened by the mother of Bloodbath, the hornless dragon bloodline had been completely stimulated. At that moment, the 3 red water blood snakes turned white like the mother of Bloodbath. At the same time, her body was covered with the same blood-colored patterns as the mother of Bloodbath's dress. Only the horn on the snake's head was still as red as before. As the 3 red water blood snakes danced, the 9 sun chains that had fallen on the mother of Bloodbath quickly condensed in its hands. In the end, the 9 sun chains turned into a stinger that wrapped around the mother of Bloodbath's palm. This stinger was the weapon that the mother of Bloodbath had transformed into. The mother of Bloodbath was originally an assassination-type Fey, and the blood bone on its body gave it the ability to fight above its grade. The mother of Bloodbath's assassination ability had been strengthened by the body weaponization form. This allowed the mother of Bloodbath to focus on its old profession. He immediately used Morbius True Data to investigate the mother of Bloodbath. Fey name, Mother of Bloodbath. The spirit species: bird-catching spider / Caliceri. Fey grade: suzerain 10/10. Fey type, nature, light / blood. Fey quality: myth II abilities frowny face execution stinger, inject blood type and light type energy into the target's body through 8 sharp Caliceri. While controlling the target's blood, the light-type energy can purify the target's buff. All-seeing eye. The spider eyes look directly at the blood core in the target's body and predict the target's next actions based on the blood flow. At the same time, the spider eyes have a certain chance of seeing through the target's flaws. Light funeral. After hitting and killing the target, if the target's soul is strong enough, the target's soul can be controlled through light-type energy. Before the soul energy is burned dry by the light, it can become a puppet that can be temporarily controlled. Spider attachment. Condense its own blood type and light type energy into a spider-shaped core. The spider-shaped core can withstand external attack. After the spider-shaped core is shattered, the light energy in the spider-shaped core will bind the target. Grip of blood. Draw the sun to descend a chain and use the sun's power to bind and attack the target. At the same time, draw the target's blood aura and temporarily control the target's body through the blood flow in the target's body. When controlling the target's blood, the target's body movements can be temporarily controlled through the blood flow in the target's body. Dawn light's embrace. Accept the sun's energy and devour the sun's light-type energy into the body. Through the light-type energy, one's strength can be temporarily increased, and then rely on the light-type energy to slowly recover from injuries. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Spider Desire Body increases one's affinity with light energy, so that the body will not reject excessive light energy. Instead, the body will convert the excessive light energy into strands of hair and store light energy through the strands of hair. After devouring the light energy from the sun and refining it in the body, the light energy can be directly absorbed by the body. Concealed spider shadow. Stop the flow of one's own blood aura, conceal all one's aura, and transform into the state of nothingness. Then use the sun as an eye to detect the surrounding environment. External blood bone. Fuse one's shed spider teeth into another young Fae's body and let the other young Fae become its external blood bone. The external blood bone's strength cannot be higher than one's own strength. When the external blood bone is inserted into the target's body, it can selectively purify the target's dark-type curse or soul-type negative effect. At a glance, Lin Yuan found that the Mother of Bloodbath's abilities had indeed undergone a drastic change. The Mother of Bloodbath was no longer an ordinary Fae but a favored spirit. Therefore, it was really difficult for other Faes to compare the Mother of Bloodbath's true data with other Faes. Endless Summer's 3 cores, fusion with the sky-shrouding Weeping Willow bloodline, and metamorphosis into Endless Divine Dream Summer was already a great opportunity. However, Endless Summer's opportunity was compared to the Mother of Bloodbath's opportunity. It could only be said that Endless Summer's opportunity was sesame, while the Mother of Bloodbath's opportunity was watermelon. The only favored spirit that Lin Yuan had come into contact with was Gray. Gray's ability, Weather Cloud, was a little special and could not be viewed with ordinary eyes. However, after absorbing the weather, Gray had proven to Lin Yuan that it was powerful as a favored spirit. Now, the Mother of Bloodbath's true data's abilities and exclusive skills were not inferior to Gray's. On one hand, Lin Yuan was shocked by the favored spirit's strength. On the other hand, he knew that the Mother of Bloodbath would be able to fly freely in the future. Chapter 1329. He had checked the Mother of Bloodbath's true data on his first trip to Indigo Azure City. Therefore, he had a deep impression of the Mother of Bloodbath's original true data. Originally, the Mother of Bloodbath's abilities and exclusive skills controlled blood energy. In addition to the manipulation of blood energy, the Mother of Bloodbath's abilities and exclusive skills were more about using the light-type energy obtained from the sun. Before awakening the Zenith Jade Spider bloodline, the Mother of Bloodbath's normal skill, Execution Sting, injected blood energy into the target's body through its 8-sharp calicary. From there, he could control the blood flow in the target's body. After the Celestial Jade Spider bloodline had awakened, the light element energy had been added to it. The Mother of Bloodbath's normal skill, execution sting, retained its original ability to control the target's blood and gained the ability to purify the target's buff. Due to spirit chi professionals having few contracted phase in the early stages, the phase grades were also low. During the early stages of the battle, spirit chi professionals would usually rely on the phase physical attacks or elemental damage to deal with the enemy. His fighting style and attack methods were relatively simple. However, as the spirit chi professionals grew, the number of contracted phase would increase, and the phase would get stronger. The combat style was often more focused on the situation where multiple phase cooperated with the main phase to fight. In such a combat style, the main phase would often have a lot of enhancement. These effects greatly increased the main phase strength. It could even allow the main phase to fight beyond its grade. The Mother of Bloodbath's normal skill, Execution Sting, attacked the target and purified the target to obtain the buff effect. It was the same as breaking the combat method of multiple phase cooperating with one phase. The Mother of Bloodbath's seemingly simple normal grade skill. There was a high chance that he could turn the situation around at the critical moment and secure victory. The Mother of Bloodbath's elite skill, All-Seeing Eyes, increased its ability to see through the target's flaws due to the awakening of the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline. The Mother of Bloodbath was a fae whose main fighting style was assassination. This ability to see through the target's flaws was equivalent to a cheat. When the Mother of Bloodbath ambushed the target, it could directly attack the target's weakness. Deals the highest amount of damage to the target. The Mother of Bloodbath's silver ability was called 8-Directional Blood, which used the changes in the target's blood to destroy the target's body. It could even control blood to flow out of the target's orifices. Now, the 8 Directions blood had become Funeral of Light. After killing the target, the Funeral of Light would use light energy to control the target's soul. Before the light energy burned the target's soul energy dry, the target would become a puppet completely under the Mother of Bloodbath's control. No matter how he looked at it, Light Burial was much stronger than 8 Directions blood. The Mother of Bloodbath's Funeral of Light had a miraculous effect when fighting one against many. In group battles, the Mother of Bloodbath could use light energy to control each target it killed. As the Mother of Bloodbath continued to kill its targets, it could pull up an army that it could command like an arm. Light Burial was an unconventional way to make up for the Mother of Bloodbath's lack of group attack ability. The difference between the Gold Skill Arachnid Attachment and the Gold Skill Arachnid Attachment were the addition of light energy. The light energy within the small spider would control the target. This allowed a spider form attachment U to become an all-round skill that combined attack, defense, and control into one. As for the Mother of Bloodbath's platinum skill Blood Grasp, it had also changed quite a bit. The previous Blood Grasp controlled the target's blood and temporarily controlled the target's movement. Now, the Blood Grasp allowed the Mother of Bloodbath to draw the power of the sun to descend chains and bind and attack the target through the sun chains. The Blood Grasp was equivalent to adding an elemental attack method to the Mother of Bloodbath. The Mother of Bloodbath's attack method no longer had any shortcomings, and it could calmly deal with any battle situation. The Mother of Bloodbath's diamond skill, Blood Embrace, had also completely changed into the skill, Dawn Light Embrace. Blood Embrace was a technique that accepted blood energy, transforming it into one's own body and using it to heal one's injuries. Blood Embrace was the foundation for the Mother of Bloodbath to quickly absorb blood energy and increase its strength. Now, Dawn Light Embrace allowed the Mother of Bloodbath to absorb the sun's energy to its heart's content. Coupled with the transformed exclusive skill, Spider Desire, the Mother of Bloodbath could convert the excess light energy in its body into hair for storage. Through the sun's energy stored in its hair, the Mother of Bloodbath could quickly increase its level like when it consumed the Blood Brew Grate. As long as there was sun in the future, the Mother of Bloodbath would no longer have to worry about hair loss. At most, it would worry about having too much hair on its neck. The exclusive skill that the Mother of Bloodbath had obtained after becoming a fantasy breed was roughly the same as before. It still stopped its own blood flow. However, the exclusive skill allowed the mother of bloodbath to directly use the sun as its eyes and detect the surrounding environment through the sun. It could be said that the exclusive skill allowed the mother of bloodbath to transform from an assassination-type fae into one of the best investigation-type faes. As for the mother of bloodbath's last exclusive skill, external bloodbone, the only change was that while ensuring its combat ability. After the external blood bone pierced the target's body, it could selectively purify the target's dark-type curse or soul-type negative effects. This meant that the mother of bloodbath's exclusive skill, external blood bone, also had a healing function. However, to remove the dark-type curse or soul-type negative effects, the mother of bloodbath's external blood bone had to pierce into the body. There was no essential difference between the external blood bone piercing into the body and being bitten by the red water blood snake. Among all the healing abilities and exclusive skills that Lin Yuan had seen, the external blood bone's healing method was undoubtedly the most ferocious. Now, the mother of bloodbath, which had awakened the favored spirit bloodline, was so powerful that it shocked Lin Yuan. While Lin Yuan was probing the mother of bloodbath's abilities and exclusive skills, it had already flown to his side. Looking at Lin Yuan standing on the sea, the mother of bloodbath's cold eyes suddenly became affectionate. The mother of bloodbath looked at Lin Yuan with affectionate eyes and did not speak for a while. Lin Yuan looked at the mother of bloodbath standing in front of him and was about to open his mouth to celebrate its successful metamorphosis into a favored spirit. However, before Lin Yuan could speak, the mother of bloodbath hugged him into its arms. The mother of bloodbath's arms hugged Lin Yuan tightly, as though it was hugging a rare treasure. Lin Yuan was stunned by the mother of bloodbath's hug. Chapter 1330. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the mother of bloodbath speak softly in his ear. Lin Yuan, thank you. After thanking him, the mother of bloodbath withdrew its arms as if it had been electrocuted. Its cheeks were coated with a faint layer of crimson. This crimson caused the mother of bloodbath's red and white eyes to be tainted with a trace of fire. At that moment, the mother of bloodbath was embarrassed by its true feelings just now. It did not understand why it had hugged Lin Yuan so impulsively. This feeling should not be expressed in words. However, Lin Yuan did not give up and risked his life to save it. He built hope for its survival and did his best to help it in the process of its transformation. This could no longer be described as a simple favor. Ever since it became Lin Yuan's path protector and formed a bond, the mother of bloodbath had forgotten how many times Lin Yuan had helped it. Lin Yuan had already saved its life twice. While the mother of bloodbath was secretly embarrassed, Lin Yuan did not feel anything about the mother of bloodbath's hug. He only thought that the mother of bloodbath had awakened its favored spirit bloodline and was overjoyed. Since it did not congratulate the mother of bloodbath, it let go of him. Lin Yuan went to prepare to congratulate the mother of bloodbath. At that moment, Lu Jie, the slaughter sky butterfly, and the void shadow demon came up and congratulated the mother of bloodbath. The mother of bloodbath was afraid that Lin Yuan would talk about the hug just now. If Lin Yuan mentioned it, the mother of bloodbath really did not know how to explain it. Before Lin Yuan could even say a word, the mother of bloodbath had already interjected. Lin Yuan, I used the blood energy from the peak Immortal Sea Emperor and the sacred source lifeform, Scarlet Tentacle Algae, to adjust my bloodline. After the celestial jade spider bloodline awakened, the blood energy can no longer help me increase my strength. If I want to increase my strength, I should absorb the sunlight energy in the sun. The mother of bloodbath felt a little regretful. If not for the awakening of the celestial jade spider bloodline, it could no longer absorb blood energy to increase its strength. It had probably successfully become a creation breed, and its quality had jumped several levels. However, even if it did not become a creation breed, it was not afraid. With the uniqueness of its skills and exclusive skills, the Mother of Bloodbath was confident that it could become immortal in a short time. Only when he reached the immortal realm could he be called Lin Yuan's path protector. The Mother of Bloodbath looked at the blood brew grapevine that Lin Yuan had taken out but had not absorbed. Lin Yuan, this heaven and earth fae, the blood brew grapevine, has reached Diamond X/Legend. Nurturing a heaven and earth fae requires a lot of resources, and heaven and earth faes don't have any combat ability. Even high-class creation masters wouldn't be able to withstand the resource consumption when nurturing a heaven and earth fae. In its natural environment, the blood brew grapevine can't possibly reach Diamond X/Legend. If this blood brew grapevine hadn't been discovered by someone, the fae guarding it in the wild would have devoured it the moment it reached gold and sprouted its leaves. There's still quite a bit of the sacred source lifeform, scarlet tentacle algae. Just a small portion of it will be enough to give the blood brew grapevine a great opportunity. Lin Yuan had originally wanted to congratulate the Mother of Bloodbath, but the Mother of Bloodbath had changed the topic and made a suggestion. Lin Yuan did not insist on congratulating the Mother of Bloodbath. He glanced at the Pinnacle Class 6 Sacred Source Lifeform, Scarlet Tentacle Algae, which was being separated by the Sawtooth Devourer Ant. This heaven and earth fae, the blood brew grapevine, was prepared for you. Now that you don't need to absorb blood energy, the blood brew grapevine is useless. Since you've opened your mouth for it, the blood brew grapevine deserves a fortuitous opportunity. Why don't you keep the blood brew grapevine? Once it's nurtured, I'll let it follow you. The Mother of Bloodbath reached for the blood brew grapevine. Although the blood brew grapevine was a plant and couldn't speak, it could still sense danger and kindness. The blood brew grapevine had always treated Lin Yuan as the best person in the world. The blood brew grapevine's grade and quality were all nurtured by Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan had taken it out of the Fey storage box, the blood brew grapevine had clearly sensed Lin Yuan's killing intent. Lin Yuan's killing intent had caused the blood brew grapevine to tremble. Now, the Mother of Bloodbath was pleading for it and showing kindness. The blood brew grapevine was like a child that had done something wrong and had been beaten by its father. It immediately relied on the Mother of Bloodbath. The vine carefully wrapped around the Mother of Bloodbath's hand and handed over a bunch of freshly ripened blood brew grape. The Mother of Bloodbath revealed a smile when it saw this scene. It reached out to touch the blood brew grapevine and plucked the blood brew grape. The blood brew grapes produced by the Diamond X/Legend blood brew grapevine were blood-type fae's ultimate treasures. Even if it wasn't a blood-type fae, the blood brew grapevine contained blood energy that could heal injuries. Even if the Mother of Bloodbath loved the taste of the blood brew grapes, it was certain that eating the blood brew grapes was useless. The Mother of Bloodbath would not eat the blood brew grapes anymore. After keeping the bunch of blood brew grapes that the blood brew grapevine handed to it, the Mother of Bloodbath stored the blood brew grapevine into the red crystal cluster diamond face storage box on its ear. Lin Yuan had already walked to the side of the sacred source lifeform, the scarlet tentacle algae. Lu Jie ordered the insect queen to recall the sawtooth devourer ants. Lin Yuan looked at the thickest crimson vine in the middle of the scarlet tentacle algae and used the tip of his sacred sword to ruthlessly hack at it. The crimson vine was immediately chopped off. This crimson vine was different from the rest. It was the scarlet tentacle algae's mother. As a dead sacred source lifeform, it could be used to create artifacts. Lin Yuan wasn't a true Class 5 creation master, so he couldn't create artifacts. If he wanted to create artifacts, he wouldn't have to trouble his master, the Moon Empress. He just had to wait for genius to successfully reach Class 5. The sawtooth devourer ants had already torn the remaining scarlet tentacle algae into pieces. Lin Yuan asked the Mother of Bloodbath to collect these pieces and use them to nurture the blood brew grapevine. After collecting the spoils of war, Lin Yuan ignored Yindai, who came to his side with an apologetic smile. The Mother of Bloodbath had almost been killed by the shark ray. Although it wasn't Indai's fault, it was still Indai who had attracted the shark ray. Since he had almost lost his companion, it was inevitable that Lin Yuan would vent his anger on Indai. Lin Yuan listened to the whale's cry and planned to collect this large whale fall first. Whether the floating island whale could hatch in advance would depend on whether this whale fall was powerful enough. Chapter 1331. It had been a few months since he had obtained the floating island whale. The floating island whale had to consume large amounts of pure spirit chi and water elemental heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls at every moment in the spirit lock spatial zone. It was the true energy consumer of the spirit lock spatial zone. Without the floating island whale absorbing pure spirit chi and water type heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls in the spirit lock spatial zone, his spirit lock spatial zone would still be able to plant a large number of black spirit peonies and raise various elemental shellfish. However, even if the floating island whale hatched, he still could not relax. As a special heaven and earth fae, the floating island whale was different from ordinary faes. Unable to absorb the willpower rune given by the contractor, only by raising his strength to Diamond X/Legend could he comprehend his own willpower rune from nature. Fortunately, as a heaven and earth fae, as long as the floating island whale's strength reached Diamond/Legend, it would not be difficult to obtain a willpower rune from nature. With some spiritual ingredients that could help faes comprehend willpower runes, the floating island whale could easily become a fantasy breed. The floating island whale was only worthy of its name when it was promoted to a fantasy breed. At that time, the floating island whale's body would expand from its original length of tens of meters to tens of thousands of times, becoming a true behemoth. As its strength increased, the floating island whale's body would continue to expand. It was rumored that the myth breed floating island whale's back was already comparable to the island under Lin Yuan's feet. At the creation breed level, the area of the floating island whale's back was even comparable to the Xia region where Lin Yuan had opened his face store. When the floating island whale hatched, he wanted it to quickly become a fantasy breed. It would require a lot more resources than it did now. Moreover, when the floating island whale became a fantasy breed, he would build a real sky city on its back. However, this matter was clearly not what Lin Yuan needed to consider now. He should now consider how to hatch the floating island whale as soon as possible, and he had already brought Sun Jiang and Zhang Qing to Lin Yuan's side. And he looked at Lin Yuan with a complicated expression and said, "Yes, Lin Yuan, I'm not as strong as you, and I wholeheartedly admit my defeat. I will work hard in the future. 2 years later, we will compete again in the Radiance Envoy election." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked at Anhe with some surprise. Lin Yuan did not expect that Anhe would take the initiative to show weakness after he executed the whale sea leaping wave strike. For a proud person to admit that he was weak in front of another person, it was really difficult for an ordinary person to do so. But Anhe did it, which showed that Anhe had a pure heart. Lin Yuan said to Anhe with a smile, "All right, let's compete again in the Radiance Envoy election 2 years later." This was the first time Lin Yuan had publicly announced his intention to run for the Radiance Envoy position. A long time ago, the Radiance Envoy had become Lin Yuan's goal. It was the path that he would eventually embark on in the future. Recalling that Anhe had helped the Mother of Bloodbath twice before, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and said to Anhe, "Anhe, you just said that you need a large whale fall to help the awakening hibernation nightmare dragon improve its quality." Before Lin Yuan could finish his words, Anhe had already interrupted him. And he glanced at Lin Yuan, then turned around and said, "A loss is a loss. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to accept defeat. I don't need you to give me a portion of the large whale just because I helped you with something insignificant. I, Anhe, did not help you to take advantage of your misfortune to gain some benefits. I'm leaving. Let's meet again if fate wills it." After speaking, Anhe turned around and boarded his Fey carriage. And his words made Lin Yuan scratch the hair at the back of his head awkwardly. It seemed that he had misunderstood him. Lin Yuan had no intention of sharing the large whale fall with he. Lin Yuan was only thinking that he wanted to improve the awakening hibernation nightmare dragon's quality. He had a lot of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with the water and earth attribute. The elemental purity of the pearls was comparable to the water elemental purity released by the large whale fall. With the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, the awakening hibernation nightmare dragon did not need to exert its water and earth transformation ability in the large whale fall. As long as he directly absorbed the water and earth elemental pearls, the quality of the pearls would naturally increase after ingesting hundreds of them. Since he did not understand what he meant, and he boarded the Fey carriage. Lin Yuan did not explain to he again. Zhang Qing and Sun Jiang looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. They might not be by he's side all year round like Guan, but they had a certain understanding of he. They had never heard of he taking the initiative to help anyone. And he's words just now undoubtedly acknowledged Lin Yuan, and even admired Lin Yuan quite a bit. Young master he wanted to be friends with Lin Yuan. Young master he's ears were clearly red just now, but he did not say that he wanted to be friends in the end. With his temperament, when would he be able to find a good brother who would treat him with sincerity? It was also thanks to Lin Yuan's good temper. If it were other His Holiness's disciples, they would not be grateful for young master he's help just now. If he said no, he wouldn't be grateful for young master he's help just now. Instead, it would cause a rift between them. Zhang Qing and Sun Jiang turned around and bowed to Lin Yuan and Lu Jie. Sirs, we shall take our leave too. After speaking, Zhang Qing and Sun Jiang boarded he's Fey carriage together. After Zhang Qing and Sun Jiang boarded the Fey carriage, the lantern in front of the Fey carriage lit up instantly. The Fey carriage rose into the air and flew towards Shocking Wave City. Now, only Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, the Void Shadow Fiend, Indai, and her 2 sea kings were left on the island. Lin Yuan listened to the incessant whale cries and said, "That's right. Big brother Lu, mother of Bloodbath, the 3 of us will go and collect the large whale fall together." Bai Yankai chased away the sea beasts and flew quite a distance away. "Slaughter Heavenly Butterfly, you stay here. When Bai Yan arrives, wait for him on the island." Although Bai Yan's faith in him had deepened quite a bit, it was better to be safe than sorry. It wasn't appropriate to bring Bai Yan along when it came to collecting large-scale whale falls. When Indai saw that Lin Yuan had been ignoring her, and had no intention of paying attention to her, she couldn't help but feel anxious. Lin Yuan did not intend to settle the score with him, and completely blame him for the shark ray. However, he still made Lin Yuan unhappy. He had just given Anha a solid slap in the face. Anha could not wait to kill him. This storm caused by the mermaid ray had just begun. When Hui Yao's holiness found out about this, he would have to testify for Hui Yao. Hui Yao would definitely use the Radiant Sea Treaty to make things difficult for the entire sea race. As the Sea Emperor who testified for Hui Yao, it was equivalent to slapping the entire sea race's face together with Hui Yao. He couldn't go on with the sea race anymore. As long as he hugged Hui Yao's thigh, he would be able to have a good life. Chapter 1332. Currently, the only person she had a chance to cozy up to was Lin Yuan. Not to mention anything else, Indai had a vision of becoming the Sea Emperor and unifying the Sea King. If she wanted to achieve this vision, it was definitely not enough to rely on herself. When Lin Yuan had ordered his peak immortal subordinates to kill Sharkmang, he had said that he would make the Imperial Mermaids and mermaids pay the price. Whether it was the Moon Empress disciple or an expert with peak immortal combat power, Lin Yuan was qualified to carry out what she had just said. As long as Lin Yuan did as he said, it was bound to have an impact on the sea race's situation. Facing a person who might break the sea race's fixed power structure, Indai had to rope him in no matter what. Indai's eyes turned, and she hardened her heart. She simply threw away her pride as an expert. Under the dumbfounded gaze of her two sea kings, Indai turned around and knelt on one knee in front of Lin Yuan. "My lord, I have something to say." Lin Yuan looked at Indai, who was kneeling in front of him with an anxious and aggrieved expression. Lin Yuan's footsteps paused, but he did not respond to Indai. However, Lin Yuan's action of stopping made Indai feel happy. Since Lin Yuan was willing to stop, it meant that he was willing to give her a chance to speak. But before Indai could be happy, she saw Lin Yuan turn his head and speak to the spider fae that had just awakened the heavenly favored bloodline. "Mother of Bloodbath, how do you plan to deal with this Sea Emperor?" Lin Yuan's words made Indai's heart tighten, and the two sea kings behind her immediately got into a fighting stance. Lin Yuan was not an unreasonable person, but when faced with the situation where his partner was almost killed, Lin Yuan felt that there was really no need to reason with her. Indai could indeed bring a lot of benefits to Sky City. Cooperating with a Sea Emperor was equivalent to giving Lin Yuan a real opportunity to develop the sea. After all, the Sea Emperor was the master of the sea. However, compared to these practical benefits, Lin Yuan was more concerned about the Mother of Bloodbath's emotions and thoughts. When the Mother of Bloodbath heard Lin Yuan's words, its heart warmed. As a vengeful spider fae, the Mother of Bloodbath was more willing to kill Indai. Although its own death was not directly related to Indai, Indai could not escape. After pondering for a moment, the Mother of Bloodbath shook its head gently at Lin Yuan. It was not that the Mother of Bloodbath had become lenient, but it knew very well how much benefit cooperating with Indai would bring to Sky City. Therefore, if the Mother of Bloodbath was given a choice, it was more willing to guarantee the overall interests of Sky City first. Seeing that the Mother of Bloodbath did not speak for a long time, Indai could not help but speak up. "Sir, I did have a conflict with Anha before. But when you came to the island, I didn't have any conflict with you, and we even talked about cooperation. Shark Mang came here to kill me. I am also a victim. You know all of this. If my lord is willing to forgive me, I can choose to become your subordinate. With me providing you with the information about the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids, it will be easier for you to find trouble with the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaid." Lin Yuan replied calmly when he heard Shark Mang's words. "The fate of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermen is not decided by you. I want the Imperial Mermaid clan to pay the price. The Imperial Mermaid clan should pay the price." Lin Yuan's tone was very calm, but Lin Yuan's tone made the mermaid's heart tremble. At the same time, it made the mermaid secretly happy. Shark Mang was shocked that the young man in front of him, who was clearly very humble just now, was actually so arrogant. However, it could not be denied that the young man in front of him did have the capital to be so arrogant. Moreover, Indai could hear the determination in the young man's words to deal with the Imperial Mermaid clan. Lin Yuan fighting the Imperial Mermaid clan was equivalent to taking revenge for Indai. It seemed that Shark Mang had really caused trouble for the Imperial Mermaid clan. However, what made Indai a little afraid was that her fate would really be decided by the words of the favored spirit. Just as Indai did not know what to do, and was about to plead on her behalf again, Indai saw the woman with different pupils wearing a corona and looking like the sun goddess speak softly. "Lin Yuan, accept her. She is useful to the development of the faction. You killed Shark Mang, which is equivalent to taking revenge for me. If I did not borrow Shark Mang's body and his sacred source lifeform, I might not have had enough blood energy to successfully awaken the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline." Shark Mang had previously felt that the Mother of Bloodbath's awakened bloodline was somewhat familiar. It was the Mother of Bloodbath's blood energy that affected Indai's judgment. Now that she heard the words Sky Corona Jade Spider, Indai looked at the Mother of Bloodbath with a completely different gaze. Indai originally thought that the Mother of Bloodbath was a newborn favored spirit that would later be found by the heaven-blessed mansion. Who would have thought that the mother of Bloodbath's body would actually awaken the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline? The possessor of the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline was the second in command of the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. In that case, this favored spirit with blood and light dual attributes should be the descendant of the second in command of the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. This was a genuine little princess of the origin world. Such an identity was not inferior to the Federation envoys of the three major federations. In fact, it was even stronger. Even if the Moon Empress disciple did not find trouble with the Imperial Mermaid clan, the Heaven-Blessed Mansion would definitely not let the Imperial Mermaid clan off. The favored spirits in the Heaven-Blessed Mansion that could control the power of water and nature were much stronger than the 8 clans of the Ocean Empire. It seemed that the sea was going to be chaotic. It was said that the Imperial Mermaid clan had moved to the Freedom Federation's sea 8 years ago. It seemed that the Imperial Mermaid clan and the Freedom Federation had reached some kind of cooperation. If the Radiance Federation and the Heaven-Blessed Mansion worked together to find trouble with the Imperial Mermaid clan, it was the same as dragging the Freedom Federation into the water. It seemed that not only the sea was going to be chaotic, but the land was also going to be chaotic. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan looked at Yin Dai and said, "We will talk about your matter after you have an audience with Her Majesty. We will talk about your matter after you have an audience with Her Majesty." After saying that, Lin Yuan plunged into the sea with Lu Jie and the mother of Bloodbath. When Lin Yuan was about to take out the green oxygen sea anemone, he realized that he could breathe freely in the sea. The ocean giant whale's world crystal provided Lin Yuan with resistance to the ice and water element. Resistance to the water element did not mean that Lin Yuan was close to water. It seemed that the fact that he could breathe freely underwater had a lot to do with blue crystal. As Lin Yuan continued to dive into the sea, the light in the water became darker. The whale's cry became more distant and mysterious. Lin Yuan took out a reflection Sun King Lotus. The instant the reflection Sun King Lotus appeared, the 500 square meters around Lin Yuan became as bright as day. Seeing that Lin Yuan wanted to light up, the mother of Bloodbath raised its hand and pointed at the sun. A sun chain descended from the sun and hung down into the sea. The sun chain pierced through the 1,000-meter deep sea, allowing Lin Yuan to look straight at the bottom of the sea. The light from the sun chain and the reflection Sun King Lotus dyed the entire sea with a faint layer of amber. Lin Yuan looked at the bottom of the sea and was immediately shocked by the feast that was going on in the sea. End of this chapter. Chapter 1333. The sea with amber waves was so beautiful and clear that all life could not help but indulge in it. Lin Yuan looked at the bottom of the sea and saw hundreds of giant whales sleeping quietly at the bottom of the magnificent sea. Among them, 3 of the whales were the largest. According to Lin Yuan's rough estimation, these 3 giant whales were at least 10,000 meters long. On top of that, there was an island growing on the backs of these 3 whales, which were at least 10,000 meters long, so the identities of these 3 whales were obvious. These 3 giant whales were island whales that had reached the end of their lifespans and died of natural causes. It turned out that there were island whales in this large whale fall. No wonder Indai still wanted to fight for a large whale fall in the Radiance Sea after knowing His Holiness and He's disciples' identity. Mermaid Ray would suddenly come here to kill Indai and everyone on the island, even at the risk of tearing up the Radiance Sea Treaty. Everything made sense now. The 3 10,000-meter-long island whales at the bottom of the sea deeply shocked Lin Yuan, allowing him to feel the wonder and magnificence of nature again. Of course, the length of an island whale in its prime was not as short as 10,000 meters. When an island whale reached adulthood, its body length and back area were at their largest. After adulthood, the island whale would continue to shrink as it grew older. When it reached a length of nearly 10,000 meters, the island whale would be considered to have entered its old age. In its old age, the island whale would go through a migration, choose a sea area, and land a whale fall to benefit all living beings in the sea area. Based on their body size, Lin Yuan knew that these 3 island whales had died of natural causes. The skin of these 10,000-meter-long island whales had decayed, exposing the thick fat layer under the skin. Where the fat layer was thinner, even the jade-like whale bones could be seen. Although the island whales were dead and decaying, the plants on their backs were still flourishing. Even if they sank to the bottom of the sea 1,000 meters deep, these flourishing plants were still growing wantonly. This was because the plants on the island whales' backs were also absorbing the vitality released by the decaying island whales. When only white bones were left of the island whales, and the large whale fall was about to be completed, these plants would be decomposed at the bottom of the sea as the last nutrients for this large whale fall. The 3 island whales really shocked Lin Yuan. The impact of such a huge creature sleeping peacefully at the bottom of the sea was really indescribable. After seeing these 3 island whales, although the other giant whales were also huge, they did not give Lin Yuan such a big impact. The rest of the giant whales that had transformed into giant whales ranged from 1 to 200 meters long to nearly 1,000 meters long. As the giant whales continued to decay, their bodies were covered in a layer of light green gauze. These gauze clothes were the massive phytoplankton and plankton produced during the early stages of the whale's fall as the giant whale's body decayed. In order to protect the life forms in this sea region, Lu Jie had released the insect-type carcinoma phase, the floating hatworm, and the reef-touching lice. The floating nether hat bug and the reef lice queen bug captured all the weak creatures in this area and brought them away. When the mother of Bloodbath awakened the Sky Corona Jade spider bloodline and transformed into a favored spirit, Bai Yen had chased away some of the more powerful life forms. As a result, the phytoplankton and plankton that were decomposed from the giant whale's body were not devoured and absorbed by the smaller sea creatures. This caused all of the gifts from the giant whale to remain where they were. At the bottom of the deep ocean, where light could not be seen, Lin Yuan took out the Sun Reflection King Lotus, and the Mother of Bloodbath summoned the sunlight chain from the sun, completely illuminating the bottom of the sea. The sunlight not only caused the number of plankton and phytoplankton to increase exponentially in a short time, but it also accelerated the giant whale's decay speed. The green gauze clothes spread from the bottom of the sea like a skirt, adding vitality and greenery to the amber-colored sea region. The vitality brought by this most gentle gift from the sea region intoxicated Lin Yuan's mind. It allowed Lin Yuan's understanding of life to advance a step further. Among the giant whale's slumbering corpse and green skirt, there were over a dozen crystal-like eggshells greedily absorbing the spirit chi and water element energy released by the giant whale's decomposition. As they absorbed a large amount of spirit chi and water element energy, these blue eggshells became brighter little by little. These blue eggshells were the island whale embryos that had accompanied the 3 floating island whales in this giant whale fall. At that moment, these island whale embryos, which were constantly making whimpers, had formed. They only needed a certain amount of pure spirit chi and pure water element energy to hatch. Therefore, if these island whale embryos were placed with Lin Yuan, they could still hatch and swim in the sea region even without the energy provided by the giant whale fall. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to put away these island whale embryos. Instead, he summoned Red Thorn. Since Lin Yuan had been very busy during this period, he would occasionally enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone through the Klein Hub to enter the swamp world. He rarely had a lot of time to accompany Red Thorn. Therefore, Red Thorn missed Lin Yuan very much. After being summoned, Red Thorn flew to Lin Yuan's face and kissed him. Then, it gently rubbed its cheek against Lin Yuan's face. When Lin Yuan felt a little itchy, Red Thorn flapped its 6 wings and landed on Lin Yuan's ear. Red Thorn's appearance stunned Lu Jie and the Mother of Bloodbath. They did not immediately recognize Red Thorn. Although they had seen Red Thorn before, they could not equate the terrifying and ferocious strange plant with the current fairy source-type lifeform. Moreover, this fairy source-type lifeform had 6 pairs of wings. No one knew better than Lu Jie what 6 pairs of wings meant. Lu Jie's insect queen now only had 2 pairs of wings, so it had 4 wings. After the insect queen had mutated, its fairy source-type lifeform bloodline had reached the peak of 4 wings. Lu Jie had always wanted to use the opportunity of becoming a myth breed to let the insect queen become a 6-winged fairy. When Lin Yuan had summoned the silver flower in the Divine Wood Federation, Lu Jie had been secretly shocked. The silver flower's appearance had subverted Lu Jie's understanding of fairy source-type lifeforms. However, Lu Jie did not expect Lin Yuan to have another 6-winged fairy source-type lifeform that had subverted his understanding. Based on its aura, the bloodline of this 6-winged fairy source-type lifeform with vine hair and a red dress was obviously higher than the one that Lin Yuan had summoned in the Divine Wood Federation. Lu Jie had originally felt pressured by Lin Yuan's side. Later, as he mastered more and more insect-type carcinoma phase, Lu Jie's pressure gradually decreased. Now, it seemed that no matter how many insect-type carcinoma phase he mastered, there was still a fundamental gap between him and Lin Yuan. If he were to fight with Lin Yuan could casually send out one of these 2 6-winged fairies to release its bloodline pressure. His insect queen would be greatly affected. After all, fairy source-type lifeforms valued bloodline more than strength. Regardless of strength, a fairy source-type lifeform with multiple wings could suppress a fairy source-type lifeform with fewer wings. ABC. Chapter 1334. Lu Jie was not jealous that Lin Yuan had 2 6-winged demons, but he was afraid that he would not be able to defeat Lin Yuan even though he was traveling with him. But one day, she could no longer see Lin Yuan's back. At that time, he would understand the meaning of being a retainer knight. A sense of urgency rose in Lu Jie's heart. Red Thorn's strength was currently at the Silver 2/Fantasy V transformation. It had been quite some time since Red Thorn had devoured that strange plant seed. However, during this period of time, Red Thorn's level had only increased by 1 small rank. Now, Lin Yuan didn't have to rack his brains for Red Thorn's quality, but the problem of Red Thorn's slow growth had not changed at all. After Red Thorn's mouth of relinquish devoured the 2 source seeds and increased its devouring and digestive abilities, it could basically devour anything in this world. Even metals could be completely digested by Red Thorn's 3 mouths of relinquish. At the same time, it could strengthen the nibbling vines produced by its spores. Therefore, not only could this large-scale whale fall become a feast for all the creatures in the ocean, but it could also become a feast for Red Thorn. If Red Thorn devoured the bodies of the hundreds of giant whales that were close to 1,000 meters long, as well as the 3 island whales that were close to 10,000 meters long, Lin Yuan found it hard to imagine to what extent Red Thorn could increase its grade. He watched as the sun accelerated the decay of the giant whale's body. The massive amount of phytoplankton and plankton that had been produced showed signs of overflowing. Lin Yuan hurriedly gave an order to Red Thorn, which was acting coquettishly on his ear. Red Thorn, you previously devoured so many water world dimensional creature bodies. Your underwater breathing ability has already been raised to its limit. Try and see if you can take root at the bottom of the sea 1,000 meters deep. If there's no problem, try to spit out as many spores as you can to nibble away at the vines to cover this gift from the sea. After speaking, he prepared to release Red Thorn's main body from the Spirit Lock spatial zone. In the end, before he could release Red Thorn's main body, Red Thorn waved its hand, and its main body in the Spirit Lock spatial zone rapidly withered. Under the surging energy of Red Thorn's flesh and blood, the withered body in the Spirit Lock spatial zone was once again condensed by Red Thorn. At this moment, Red Thorn's face was filled with joy. Red Thorn, which had been nurtured by Lin Yuan as a prey plant since young, loved Lin Yuan the most. His other hobbies were eating. As soon as Red Thorn appeared and acted coquettishly with Lin Yuan, it stared at the large whale fall at the bottom of the sea. However, as a six-winged demon-type source-type lifeform, Red Thorn's intelligence was higher than ordinary spirit chi professionals. This level of intelligence allowed Red Thorn to control its desires very well. She no longer acted like a spoiled child to Lin Yuan for a piece of meat. However, even if Red Thorn could control its desires, it didn't mean that Red Thorn didn't have a desire for a large whale fall. Now that Lin Yuan had asked him to take care of the entire large-scale whale fall, it was enough to prove his importance in Lin Yuan's heart. Thinking of this, Red Thorn's heart jumped with joy. When Red Thorn summoned its main body, the mother of Bloodbath and Lu Jie, who had already seen Red Thorn before, recognized its identity based on its appearance. Lu Jie was shocked to discover that Red Thorn had 6 wings. Now that it saw Red Thorn's true body, the mother of Bloodbath was so dumbfounded that it could only blink. Back in Millstone Town, the mother of Bloodbath had seen Lin Yuan summon Red Thorn. At that time, Red Thorn was just a source-type plant that had just reached bronze. But in the blink of an eye, Red Thorn had transformed so much that the mother of Bloodbath could not recognize it. Putting aside how a plant-type source-type lifeform had transformed into a 6-winged source-type lifeform, just how Red Thorn's quality had been upgraded to Fantasy V was beyond the mother of Bloodbath's imagination. After the shock, the mother of Bloodbath could not help but sigh in its heart. Being Lin Yuan's Fei is simply too blissful. After Red Thorn summoned its main body, which had 3 mouths of relinquish, it fell toward the bottom of the sea under Red Thorn's lead. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw the acid corrosion queen bee fly out of one of the mouths of relinquish. As a flying insect, the acid corrosion queen bee did not have the ability to move underwater. Red Thorn simply did not care about the life and death of its bootlicker. The acid corrosion queen bee drilled out of the mouths of relinquish and desperately floated toward the sea. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly waved his hand at the acid corrosion queen bee and stored it in the spirit lock spatial zone. At that moment, Red Thorn's main body had landed in the center of the large whale fall. The impact of Red Thorn's main body sinking caused the sand at the bottom of the sea to instantly turn turbid. At that moment, Red Thorn's main body's 3 mouths of relinquish were frantically blinking eyes of relinquish. Then, Red Thorn began to digest these eyes of relinquish one by one. Red Thorn hid in the spore cavity of the 3 mouths of relinquish and quickly sprayed out a large number of spores. These spores were trapped in the sand by the impact of Red Thorn's dive and were carried far away by the sand. These spores landed and quickly took root under Red Thorn's command. After taking root, the spores followed Red Thorn's instructions and did not directly grow into nibbling vines to start feasting. Instead, they turned into small spore cavities one after another. Obviously, these spores had been specially modified by Red Thorn. These specialized spores were the first step for Red Thorn to enjoy this feast. These specialized spore cavities grew at the bottom of the sea and rapidly developed. After maturing, the spore cavities spat out spores with all their might. This continued until the energy in the spore cavities was exhausted and withered. Thousands of spores were released from the spore cavities, dyeing the entire bottom of the sea with a misty blood color. The spore cavities tried their best to spit the spores far away, and the spore cavities' ejection force allowed the spores to spread further. Lin Yuan looked down from the center of the sea and realized that the range of the pale red spores had completely covered the area of this large whale fall. These spores landed and took root, and a large number of nibbling vines grew out from the bottom of the sea. The nibbling vines that grew out were like tentacles that wrapped around the giant whale's carcasses. The nibbling vines scraped on the giant whale's body, and each time they scraped, they would tear off the giant whale's thick layer of fat and rotten skin. After devouring the giant whale's layer of fat and skin, these nibbling vines were rapidly digested. The life force that they fed back allowed these nibbling vines to grow rapidly. Soon, these nibbling vines grew from 3 to 4 meters to 10 to 20 meters. They even had a tendency to grow to 30 to 40 meters. The nibbling vine's length made Lin Yuan even more surprised at Red Thorn's combat power in the water. If there was enough life force, Red Thorn could build a jungle of nibbling vines that connected the bottom of the sea to the surface. These extended nibbling vines were very agile, and they quickly found the weakest spot in the giant whale's layer of fat. The nibbling vines drilled into the giant whale's carcass through the gaps in its jade-like bones and started to enjoy this feast from the inside. ABC. Chapter 1335. Not only did Red Thorn's eating speed increase from the inside of these giant whales, but it also increased its speed of eating. This also allowed Red Thorn's devouring vines to obtain a large amount of life energy from the whale's internal organs in a short period of time. At this juncture, Red Thorn still didn't stop using the Eye of Relinquish. As Lin Yuan watched Red Thorn spread its vines all over the seabed in just a few minutes, he felt increasingly gratified. As expected of Red Thorn, which he had slowly nurtured from a source seed, it could be said that every evolution and enhancement of Red Thorn contained Lin Yuan's painstaking efforts and expectations. Lin Yuan's face revealed a bright smile when he sensed Red Thorn's skyrocketing vitality and slowly increasing grade. However, he was a little unwilling to see the green skirt formed by the plankton and phytoplankton spawned by the previous large whale fall about to disperse. However, it was very difficult for the nibbling vines to grow to a height of several hundred meters to prey on the plankton and phantasmal plants that formed a green skirt. Just as he was sighing in his heart, the dark red spores that had not found a place to take root at the bottom of the sea quickly began to hatch in the sea. The appearance of these spores was completely different from the vines that were rooted to the bottom of the sea. These spores relied on the energy provided by Red Thorn and slowly turned into fist-sized bewitching red flowers. Upon seeing the thousands of red flowers blooming at the bottom of the sea, Lin Yuan was stunned. Clearly, this was another form of Red Thorn's devouring vine skill. After these red flowers grew to the size of a palm, they floated around in the sea as if they were alive. At the same time, they would hunt for plankton and phytoplankton in the sea due to the large whale fall. As they preyed on the plankton and phytoplankton, the red flowers grew bigger and brighter. Layers and layers of gill-shaped petals gradually grew from the inside of the flower. As the gill-shaped petals opened and closed, they drove the bewitching flowers to search for more plankton and phytoplankton. After seeing the red flower grow gill-shaped petals, he could be sure that this new form of the nibbling vines was definitely related to the large number of water-dimensional lifeforms that Red Thorn had devoured. Previously, when Red Thorn only had one mouth of Relinquish, the mouth of Relinquish had 12 large gill-shaped petals. After Red Thorn grew 3 mouths of Relinquish, the gill-shaped flower petal was removed from the mouth of Relinquish. Clearly, that was not the case now. Red Thorn changed the gill-shaped flower petals that were originally used for decoration into an underwater attack method. Because the plankton and phytoplankton in the green skirt were too abundant, the gill-shaped petals in the red flower swallowed almost solid plankton and phytoplankton. Such a large number of phytoplankton and plankton allowed these flowers to develop again. Slowly, these red petals that were half a meter in diameter expanded to 3 meters in diameter. The gill-shaped petals also became more slender. Soon, these gill-shaped petals that were growing longer and longer bloomed into flowers that formed gill-shaped fins that were 6 meters long. The red flowers with 6-meter-long gill-like fins looked like bewitching red jellyfish. Each 6-meter-long gill fin was the best filter for plankton and phytoplankton. Lin Yuan thought to himself as he looked at the 1,500 jellyfish-like gill-shaped flowers around him. He had been worried for nothing. These plankton and phytoplankton were not wasted by Red Thorn. At this moment, Red Thorn's rank had already risen to Silver rank 9. For Red Thorn, this was just the beginning of a large-scale whale fall. The nibbling vines in the giant whale's body grew longer and longer after eating the giant whale's internal organs. However, the nibbling vines on the surface of the giant whale had only finished gnawing the giant whale's skin, and the fat layer under the giant whale's skin had yet to reveal whale meat. The whale meat was the part of the giant whale's body with the most flesh energy. At that moment, Red Thorn commanded the 5 mature gill-shaped petals to come to Lin Yuan's side as though they were delivering something. Lin Yuan looked at Red Thorn, and it pointed at the 5 red flowers as though it was presenting a treasure. Lin Yuan saw the red flowers' gill-shaped fins at the front hand him a basin-sized golden substance. This golden substance's color was purer than gold and appeared to be translucent and crystallized. The moment Lin Yuan saw this golden substance, he smelled a strange and fragrant fragrance. Lin Yuan immediately knew that this golden substance should be the ambergris whale fragrance that could heal soul injuries and increase the ability to comprehend the willpower of heaven and earth. The ambergris whale fragrance was produced in the belly of whales, and the older the whale, the higher the probability of producing it. The basin-sized ambergris whale fragrance let him know that he had picked up a treasure. Such a large amount of ambergris whale fragrance was probably difficult to come up with, even for a top force that specialized in the ocean. Of course, even if a peak faction had ambergris whale fragrance, they wouldn't take it out. They would only let their juniors use it. The ambergris whale fragrance could help comprehend willpower runes, which was equivalent to directly increasing a spirit chi professional's potential. This function couldn't be bought with any amount of money. However, it was clear that this washbasin-sized piece of ambergris whalebone was only enough to transport a single red flower. The other 4 red flowers each delivered 4 pieces of ambergris whalebone. These 4 pieces of ambergris whale fragrance had different textures and colors. Obviously, they came from the bodies of 4 different sperm whales. But these ambergris and whale fragrance of different textures and colors had almost the same effect. At most, the only difference would be the smell when it was burned. As he looked at the ambergris whale fragrance, he suddenly thought of the island whale brain oil he had eaten in the Radiant Moon Palace. Therefore, Lin Yuan hurriedly said to Red Thorn, "Red Thorn, don't worry. Red Thorn, you have to keep the island whale brain oil in the skulls of those 3 island whales for me." After saying that, Lin Yuan felt that it wasn't enough to let Red Thorn keep the island whale brain oil. Red Thorn devoured the giant whales for the blood energy, and the giant whales contained the most blood energy from their flesh. The benefits of devouring the island whale brain oil were not as much as the flesh. However, Red Thorn recognized the ambergris whale fragrance, but it didn't mean that it knew the other spiritual ingredients in these giant whales. Through its spiritual and bloodline senses, Red Thorn knew what Lin Yuan was conflicted about. Red Thorn went to the Mother of Bloodbath's side and used its white and slender hand to grab the Mother of Bloodbath's index finger. "Sister Blood, let's go to the bottom of the sea together. Can you tell me what is useful to Lin Yuan?" When Red Thorn had just gained sentience, it knew that the Mother of Bloodbath was Lin Yuan's path protector. Therefore, Red Thorn was rather respectful to the Mother of Bloodbath. When the Mother of Bloodbath heard Red Thorn call it Sister Blood, it couldn't help but be slightly stunned. If it was in the past, the Mother of Bloodbath would feel that it was very strange for Lin Yuan's Fae to call it Sister Blood. It was Lin Yuan's path protector, so calling it Sister Blood sounded a little inferior. Chapter 1336. However, the Mother of Bloodbath, who understood the feelings in its heart, liked the title Big Sister very much. This title made it the same generation as Lin Yuan. What else could make the Mother of Bloodbath happier than this? The Mother of Bloodbath used its palm to hold Red Thorn and put it on its shoulder. It used its hair to protect Red Thorn. "Big Sister Blood will go down and tell you what to keep and what to eat. I promise I'll help you divide it clearly." The Mother of Bloodbath brought Red Thorn to the bottom of the sea and solved Lin Yuan's problem. This allowed Lin Yuan to smoothly harvest a large batch of spiritual ingredients produced from the giant whale. Just as the Mother of Bloodbath dived into the bottom of the sea with Red Thorn, Lin Yuan found that Red Thorn had successfully reached gold. Then, Red Thorn, which had been promoted to gold, sent a request to Lin Yuan, asking him what direction it should enhance next. Lin Yuan looked at the sea of flowers that Red Thorn had spread out and found that although Red Thorn could quickly expand its position, the explosion in the sea of flowers still had to rely on the eyes of Relinquish. If it relied on the eyes of Relinquish for everything, the sea of flowers would seem too cumbersome and not enough damage. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to let Red Thorn enhance in the direction of increasing the sea of flowers' explosive power. Red Thorn received Lin Yuan's instructions, and the three mouths of Relinquish instantly roared like furnaces. Immediately after, many vein-like veins bulged on the mouth of Relinquish. A large number of fine aerial roots separated from the bottom of the mouth of Relinquish. These fine, soft, and fluff-like aerial roots accurately connected to each layer of nibbling vines. Immediately after, the blood vessels on the surface of the mouth of Relinquish quickly surged. These nibbling vines and the rapidly floating red petals in the sea seemed to be on steroids, and their speed and offensive strength instantly doubled. Of course, the price of this was the increased consumption of the eyes of Relinquish on Red Thorn's mouth of Relinquish. Red Thorn no longer absorbed the large whale's energy to increase its grade. Instead, it used the large whale's energy to temper its body. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows and used Morbius True Data to investigate Red Thorn. Fey name, Red Thorn, Six-Winged Demon, Thousand Eyes of Relinquish, Fey species. Vine subfamily / demon species, Fey grade, Gold, 1 out of 10, Fey type, Source / wood, Fey quality, Fantasy V skills. Frowny face. Mouth of Relinquish, secretes an exuberant digestive fluid. The digestive fluid is extremely corrosive and can quickly digest the energy in food. The tongues of Relinquish in the mouth increase the digestion speed by several times and can secrete various acids from the flesh and blood that it has consumed. At the same time, when the three tongues of Relinquish pierce into the target's body, they can choose to cut off the tongue tip and leave the tongue tip in the target's body. When the target is alive, the tongue tip can control the target's spirit and soul. When the target is dead, the tongue tip can control and activate the target's spirit and soul, allowing the target to remain alive. Carnivorous vines. Vines filled with digestive juices and sharp teeth growing on the inside of the vines can feed on flesh and blood energy by scraping. Eye of Relinquish. An eye formed through the consumption of flesh energy. Every eye contains a large amount of flesh energy. When the number of eyes of Relinquish on the mouth of Relinquish is maintained below 60, the eyes of Relinquish can only store energy. When the number of eyes of Relinquish exceeds 60, the eyes of Relinquish will not be stored on the mouth of Relinquish and can be turned into an energy ray at any time. Exclusive skill. Frowny face. Spore proliferation. The spore cavity can spit out a large number of spores. The spores can absorb the energy provided by Red Thorn or flesh energy to rapidly proliferate and grow child ramets and ramets that are controlled by the mother ramet. Wither glory. Red Thorn can rapidly absorb the energy from the soil and pour it into the sea of flowers. As long as the roots of the child ramets and ramets are left in the soil, the withered sea of flowers will reach its most flourishing state. Lin Yuan noticed that Red Thorn's newly obtained gold ability was called Sea of Flowers Jump. When he saw Red Thorn's gold ability, Sea of Flowers Jump, Lin Yuan's eyes widened. Red Thorn's gold ability, Sea of Flowers Jump, was equivalent to doubling the power of Red Thorn's Sea of Flowers. Of course, this doubling was just a literal meaning. Red Thorn's child ramets would increase its attack power and mobility by several folds. When thousands of child ramets were stacked together, the increase in power wasn't as simple as just doubling. This was why the Spirit Guards would only recognize the Elite Cancer Phase Rampage as a C-grade disaster, and it required a C-grade response. However, the Bronze Cancer Phase Rampage in the Spirit Guards was an A-grade disaster, and it required an A-grade response. The Spirit Guards' C-grade disaster corresponded to King-class dangerous fugitive members, while the A-grade disaster corresponded to Emperor-class dangerous fugitive members. There was a huge difference in the degree of danger between an increase in overall strength and an increase in individual strength. In addition, as Red Thorn's strength increased, the child Rammet's strength would also increase. The strength of the sea of flowers produced by Red Thorn, which had only advanced by 1 rank, was far from what it had been before. Lin Yuan's keen senses noticed that the nibbling vines' mouths, which were filled with sharp teeth, were constantly lengthening, causing the bottom of the nibbling vines to become sharp mouths. These jellyfish-like red flowers had a layer of translucent, red net-like membrane growing inside them. This layer of net-like membrane increased the red flower's swimming speed and allowed the gill-shaped petals to gather together to increase the feeding efficiency. This was probably Red Thorn's gold ability, Sea of Flowers Jump, which specialized the child Rammet's weapons, allowing the child Rammet's weapons to have more practical effects. As Lin Yuan looked at the gold Red Thorn, he felt more and more satisfied. As Red Thorn's grade increased, the Sea of Flowers' overall strength also increased. Red Thorn's devouring speed of these giant whale corpses was also constantly increasing. However, the more Lin Yuan looked, the more he felt that something was wrong. A few of the 100-meter-long small whales had already been devoured by Red Thorn until only bones were left. However, Red Thorn was only at gold rank level 2 now. It seemed like Red Thorn had used too much flesh energy from the large whale falls to enhance itself. Lin Yuan thought to himself, could it be that this large whale fall is unable to allow Red Thorn to reach platinum? If that's the case, then Red Thorn is simply a scam. I really don't know when Red Thorn can become a myth breed. Soon, Lin Yuan realized that his jinx had come true. After Red Thorn had devoured all the giant whale corpses except for the 3 island whales, it had only reached gold 4. Of course, apart from the consumption of enhancing itself, Red Thorn was also using the giant whale corpses' flesh energy to grow the red flowers and nibbling the vines. However, it obviously had to do so. Lin Yuan couldn't let Red Thorn slowly absorb the large whale falls and stay at the bottom of the sea with it for weeks or even months. Chapter 1337. On the other hand, when the large whale falls formed the island whale embryos, more than 80% of the energy in the island whale flesh had been consumed. Otherwise, 13 island whale embryos would not have formed. Putting aside whether ordinary small whale falls could form island whale embryos, even if they could, the number would not exceed 2. The mother of Bloodbath had already stored 13 island whale embryos into the diamond face storage box for Lin Yuan to prevent them from competing with Red Thorn for nutrients. At the same time, it told Red Thorn how to use the nibbling vines to extract the island whale brain oil through the island whale's eyes. At that moment, a clear and distant whale cry came from near the 3 island whale bodies covered in nibbling vines. This whale cry made Lin Yuan's eyes shrink. He was keenly aware that the whale cry was not through his ears but directly in his soul. The 13 island whale embryos had been stored in the diamond face storage box by the mother of Bloodbath and could no longer make a whale cry. These 3 10,000-meter-long island whales were dead, and half of their bodies had been eaten by Red Thorn, so they could not make a sound. If he could hear the whale cry, it meant that there was a whale species Fey here. Moreover, this whale species Fey was likely to be a soul-type existence. This made Lin Yuan think of a legend he had seen in the Radiant Moon Palace's Hidden Moon Pavilion not long ago. Lin Yuan was very interested in this legend, so he had specially asked his master, the Moon Empress, in the knowledge Q&A after hearing about it. The Moon Empress said that this legend came from the sea race. It was said that only the elemental mermaids in the deep-sea legend could feel the sorrow of the whale's vitality in a large whale fall. Seeing the thought soul whale transformed from the whale's souls, the Moon Empress, who had told Lin Yuan about the legend, had clearly stated that it could not be verified. After all, the elemental mermaids living in the deep ocean tides had become a legend. It was too ridiculous to use a legend as an example to verify the legend. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw that Lu Jie and the Mother of Bloodbath's expressions did not change at all, which meant that they did not hear the whale cry that directly affected their souls. Thinking of the legend, Lin Yuan suddenly discovered a problem. The legend said that the elemental mermaids could feel the sorrow of the whale's vitality and see the thought soul whale transformed from the whale's souls. After fusing with blue, his body would become flowing water. It looked exactly like the form of an elemental mermaid. Could it be that Lu Jie and the Mother of Bloodbath couldn't hear that whale cry, but he could hear that it was related to blue jade? If that was the case, then things would be interesting. After the sacred source lifeform, the water of origin had died, the Moon Empress had created a special fae for the Moon Empress. It wasn't an elemental mermaid. Before the source water turned into a sacred source lifeform, it would at least be an apostle whose power of faith in the water world was below average. In that case, the legendary elemental mermaid should have come from the water world. It was most likely a dimensional lifeform that had escaped from the water world dimensional rift. If this was the truth, it was no wonder that the elemental mermaid would disappear and become history. There was no source energy in the origin world, only spiritual energy. Dimensional creatures couldn't absorb spirit chi in the main world, so they couldn't increase their strength without being replenished by source energy. If he couldn't increase his strength, his lifespan wouldn't increase. Even elemental lifeforms with long lifespans would eventually die one day. He used his blood to form a contract with Bailan, and their bloodlines were connected. If blue jade was really a sacred source lifeform transformed from an elemental mermaid apostle, then wouldn't his fusion with blue jade mean that he had become a legend of the sea race? In order to confirm this, Lin Yuan immediately used the faith possession skill to fuse with blue jade. Lin Yuan originally thought that he would become a mermaid when he fused with blue jade, just like when he fused with it on land. However, the changes in his body were completely different from what he had imagined. The moment Lin Yuan used the faith possession skill to fuse with blue jade, whether it was Lu Jie, who was beside Lin Yuan, or the Mother of Bloodbath, who was teaching Red Thorn how to extract the island whale brain oil in the deep sea, they all felt that the calm water at the bottom of the sea suddenly flowed. The cool waves instantly flowed in the sea, giving people a refreshing and comfortable feeling. The plankton and phytoplankton that hadn't been devoured by the red flowers in time were once again gathered into a green skirt under the flowing waves. With Lin Yuan as the origin, a smear of blue that couldn't be defined by the world suddenly bloomed. This smear of blue was like the soul of the water, and the blue overflowed into the water, causing the water to ripple with a moving melody. Lin Yuan's body became transparent under the contrast of this ultimate blue, and a pair of fishtails that were at least twice as long as on land set off thousands of tides in the sea. They sent the blue water to even further waters. Lin Yuan's eyes turned from black to deep blue as though he could see through the shackles of the deep sea. His deep blue eyes flashed with luster, like the bright and charming Milky Way in the sky. The moment Lin Yuan's long hair turned into a tide, the tide weaved the entire water into a blue palace. The entire sea sang together with a myriad of sounds. The waves of the deep sea were like the wind in the sky, gently caressing Lin Yuan's body, telling of intimacy. At that moment, Lin Yuan could clearly feel all the water elements in the water region celebrating. The moment Lin Yuan transformed, Lu Jie, the Mother of Bloodbath, and Red Thorn all looked at him. With just a glance, a fae, a human, and a fairy had all fallen. At that moment, all the beauty in the world could be defined by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan himself had also suffered quite a shock. It turned out that when he used faith's possession and blue fusion, he had never been in a complete state. Only when he was in the water and possessed by his faith could he transform into his true form. Lin Yuan felt that his current appearance should be no different from the legendary elemental merfolk. Just as Lin Yuan was about to head to the bottom of the sea to investigate the source of the whale cry that directly affected the soul sounded again. Immediately after, a silver-white small whale with a slender horn on its head and a 2-meter-long body emerged from the bottom of the sea. This small whale didn't have a physical body and was formed entirely by the condensation of soul power. After the small whale appeared, it headed straight for Lin Yuan, and a series of whale-like cries came from its mouth. When it saw Lin Yuan, it was as though it had seen its dependents and family. When Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, and Red Thorn saw this small whale suddenly rushing toward Lin Yuan, their expressions turned serious, and they prepared to attack it. Lin Yuan hurriedly said, "Don't attack. Don't do anything. He won't hurt me." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, and Red Thorn stopped attacking. However, the mother of Bloodbath and Red Thorn clearly didn't have the mind to care about the large whale fall. They came to Lin Yuan's side and stood between him and the silver-white small whale. When the small whale saw that someone was blocking it, it couldn't help but feel a little timid. However, it didn't stop approaching Lin Yuan. ABC. Chapter 1338. Suddenly, the small whale's body vanished like a bubble, and the bubble condensed behind Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan turned around and his eyes met the small whale's. The small whale expressed its joy through its cry in Lin Yuan's soul. If the legend was true, then this whale species Fei, which was obviously a soul type, should be the Remembrance Soul Whale. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data to investigate the small white one-horned whale. Fei name, Remembrance Soul Whale Fei species. Soul Whale / Horned Whale Fei grade, Elite, 6 out of 10, Fei type, Soul, Fei quality. Elite abilities Frowny Face Soul Not. When facing a dead target's body, sing a whale cry to condense a small number of souls hidden in the target's body and awaken the target's soul. If the target has enough souls, it will awaken the soul's memories when it was alive. Whale Illusion U. When facing an attack, the body will turn into soul energy and scatter in all directions to avoid any form of attack. When it is seriously injured, the soul will attach to the closest object. When escaping danger, the soul attached to the object can slowly awaken and condense into the main body. After checking, Lin Yuan found that this small whale was indeed called the Remembrance Soul Whale. This Remembrance Soul Whale was formed when the souls of 100 giant whales reached the end of their lifespans. Its strength was at Elite 6/Elite. Upon seeing the Remembrance Soul Whale's ability, Lin Yuan could not help but gasp. This small whale was indeed a Fei formed from the souls of 100 giant whales, including 3 island whales. Its normal ability was simply godly. Since ancient times, no matter who reached the end of their lifespan or was killed by external forces, they had to face death. It was an iron law of nature that the dead could not be resurrected. However, the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Not, allowed it to collect the remnant souls from dead Feis. When enough souls were collected, it could even let the souls recall their memories when they were alive. It could be said that Soul Not allowed the dead and the living to have a chance to talk. It allowed the living to retain important people in another way. As the souls of the dead recalled their memories, the living could also communicate with the dead through their souls. This ability was equivalent to turning a lifetime of emotions into an eternal bond. Upon seeing the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Not, Lin Yuan decided to keep it by his side no matter what. It just so happened that this Remembrance Soul Whale was a support-type Fei. Based on his talent, Lin Yuan could contract the Thought Soul Whale. Just now, when the Remembrance Whale had appeared before him, it had transformed into a bubble and then condensed again. It had most likely used the elite skill, Whale Fantasy. The Whale Illusion skill provided the Remembrance Spirit Whale with an extremely strong ability to avoid damage. This also allowed the Psychic Whale to escape by attaching itself to other objects when it was heavily injured. Finally, it could slowly recover its soul and condense its body. Since he could contract this Remembrance Soul Whale, he needed to consider it. Should I use my spiritual energy to contract the Thought Soul Whale or Morbius exclusive skill, Spirit Lock Spatial Zone? Morbius' silver spirit lock Fey would be the soul remembrance whale. If he used his spiritual energy to contract the silver 6/elite thought soul whale, his remaining spiritual energy would be exhausted. If he encountered any other Feys in the future, he could only stare at them. If he used Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, to spirit lock this remembrance soul whale, according to the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's rules, Morbius could spirit lock Feys that were lower than its grade. Morbius could spirit lock on Feys that were lower than its own grade, which meant that all Feys below Silver X could be spirit locked. The Remembrance Soul Whale happened to be within Morbius' spirit lock range. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan decided to let the Remembrance Soul Whale become Morbius' Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's Silver Spirit Lock. This was because Lin Yuan valued the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Knot, and not its elite ability, Whale Fantasy. If he could spirit lock the Remembrance Soul Whale, its normal ability, Soul Knot, could be retained. It would not affect Lin Yuan's expectations of the Remembrance Soul Whale, and it could also give Lin Yuan a chance to choose when facing other Feys in the future. With that thought, Lin Yuan extended his palm toward the Remembrance Soul Whale. Lin Yuan's palm covered the Remembrance Soul Whale's horn and communicated with it through their souls. "Little fellow, I feel that you quite like me. How about following me in the future?" As a Fey formed from the souls of 100 giant whales, the Remembrance Soul Whale had extremely high intelligence. Lin Yuan planned to ask the Remembrance Soul Whale's opinion before the contract as a form of respect for it. Of course, the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Knot, was very important. Lin Yuan also wanted to use Spirit Lock on the Remembrance Soul Whale, but the method he would use would be different. Lin Yuan had just experienced the Mother of Bloodbath's life and death moment and had almost been separated by life and death. He had deeply experienced the sorrow and despair when someone important to him left him. With the Remembrance Soul Whale, even if someone close to him really died, Lin Yuan could still use the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Knot, to keep someone close to him by his side. When the Remembrance Soul Whale heard Lin Yuan's words, it immediately waved its tail happily and pounced toward him. When it pounced over, the Remembrance Soul Whale was afraid that the horn on its head would hit Lin Yuan, so it simply raised its head. It used its belly to collide with Lin Yuan's, as if to say that Lin Yuan had to take it with him wherever he went. After receiving the Remembrance Soul Whale's response, Lin Yuan used Morbius' Spirit Lock Spatial Zone to Spirit Lock on the Remembrance Soul Whale. Soon, the Remembrance Soul Whale's Spirit Lock was successful. Now, the Soul Whale had become Lin Yuan's fourth Spirit Locked Fey. The moment he used Spirit Lock on the Soul Remembrance Whale, he knew that the Soul Remembrance Whale's grade advancement relied on pure Spirit Chi and the Soul Energy in the Spirit-type spiritual ingredient. Pure Spirit Chi was nothing to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan did not have many Soul-type spiritual ingredient. The only thing he had was the cold snow pine incense, which he had burned with tree sap. The frigid snow rosin could heal soul wounds. Although he could rely on Ji Feng's Fei to command the water lily to heal his injured soul at any time, there was no harm in keeping the cold cedar rosin in reserve. After all, it was impossible for Ji Feng to be by his side all the time. Island whale brain oil was an extremely high-quality soul-spirit material. After Red Thorn dug out the island whale brain oil from the 3 island whale skulls, it would be perfect for the Remembrance Soul Whale to use the island whale brain oil to increase its strength. The Mother of Bloodbath, Lu Jie, and Red Thorn saw that not only did the small whale not harbor any hostility toward Lin Yuan, but Lin Yuan had also taken it as a Fey. Everyone was relieved. The Mother of Bloodbath brought Red Thorn back to the bottom of the sea, and Red Thorn continued to command the nibbling vines to extract the brain oil from the island whale's skulls. The Mother of Bloodbath took out a diamond Fey storage box and stored the whale bones that the nibbling vines could not eat into it one by one. Lin Yuan's purpose in seizing this large whale fall was to hatch the floating island whale as soon as possible. These white jade-like whale bones were the key to increasing the floating island whale's hatching speed. ABC. Chapter 1339. In a large whale fall, the souls of the dead whales could fuse together and give birth to a strange creature like the soul whale. More than 80% of the energy in the giant whale's flesh would transform into the island whale embryo. Although Red Thorn had created such a huge scene at the bottom of the sea, in reality, Red Thorn had only absorbed less than 20% of the energy from the giant whale's body. As for the enormous spiritual energy and pure water elemental energy in the whale's body, they were all stored in the whale's marrow within the whale's jade-like skeleton. It would take the creatures at the bottom of the sea tens of years to decompose the whale's bones. This was also the reason why the island whale embryos were formed at the beginning of the large whale fall, but they often only hatched after the large whale fall ended. Of course, the island whale embryos formed in a large whale fall were not guaranteed to hatch. In fact, after a large whale hunt involving 3 island whales ended, it would be good if 2 island whales hatched. And in those medium-sized whale falls, even if they were lucky enough to give birth to island whale embryos, they would not be able to survive. In the end, when the medium-sized whale fall ended, the island whale embryo would not hatch. This was because the amount of pure spiritual energy and pure water element energy required for the island whale embryos to hatch was too great. Therefore, in order to hatch, every island whale embryo would start a fierce competition with its companions that were born at the same time. Every island whale embryo would try its best to practice its devouring ability from the moment it appeared. In order to be able to break the whale bone during the final stage of the large whale fall, the whale bone had been chewed on by various underwater creatures for decades. He absorbed all the pure water energy and spiritual energy in the whale marrow into his own body, crushing his companions. Of course, the island whale embryos that had yet to hatch were not completely hopeless. The concentration of spirit energy and water elemental energy at the bottom of the sea was not low in the first place. After accumulating for a long time, the island whale embryo would eventually absorb enough water elemental energy and spirit energy. Any creature in the sea would subconsciously protect the island whale. When the Sea King and the Sea Emperor discovered unhatched island whale eggshells, they would often pay from their own pockets to help the island whale hatch from its embryo. However, there was still no lack of island whale embryos that no one had discovered at the bottom of the sea. If the seabed happened to have an exceptionally hard rock layer, the spiritual chi would be able to penetrate very slowly. The island whale embryos had existed for thousands of years, and there were many cases where the embryos didn't hatch until the life aura in the embryos ended. What Lin Yuan wanted now was the whale marrow in these giant whales' bones. In addition to the whale marrow hidden within the whalebone itself was also a treasure. The price of the whalebone in the Radiance Federation's luxury goods market was similar to completely jade-textured wood. Large pieces of whalebone furniture, ornaments, and accessories were all rare items. It could fetch an extremely high price in an auction. Top forces had an extremely high demand for furniture, ornaments, and other items made of whale bones. To a certain extent, the whale bone produced from the body of a deep-sea giant whale was more prominent than completely jade-textured wood. After Red Thorn dug out the brain oil from the skull of the first island whale, it personally called for 3 specialized flowers. It carefully watched the specialized flower use its gill-like fin to hold the island whale brain oil and escort it to Lin Yuan. After taking the island whale brain oil, he stretched out his fingers and gently rubbed Red Thorn's vine-like hair. He then broke off a fingernail-sized piece from the watermelon-sized island whale brain oil and handed it to the Remembrance Soul Whale. When the Remembrance Soul Whale saw what Lin Yuan handed over, it gently touched it with its mouth and happily swallowed this small piece of island whale brain oil. While the Remembrance Soul Whale swallowed the island whale brain oil, Lin Yuan attached his hand to the Remembrance Soul Whale's head. He circulated his spiritual power and injected pure spirit chi into the Remembrance Soul Whale's body through his left hand. Under the nurturing of the island whale brain oil and pure spirit chi, The Elite 6/Elite Remembrance Soul Whale's strength and quality rapidly increased like a roller coaster. Soon, the Remembrance Soul Whale's grade reached Elite X, but Lin Yuan did not let the Remembrance Soul Whale evolve to Bronze. Instead, he raised the Soul Whale's grade from Excellent to Epic. Then, Lin Yuan let the Remembrance Soul Whale evolve with Anticipation. For phase like Morbius Spirit Lock, they were unable to obtain new abilities when they evolved. They could still only use normal abilities. This made the phase more dependent on exclusive skills to upgrade their normal abilities. After the Remembrance Soul Whale evolved to Bronze, 3 exclusive skills appeared. Lin Yuan needed to choose the most suitable exclusive skill for the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Knot. The Remembrance Soul Whale's first exclusive skill was Soul Energy Detection. Soul Energy Detection increased the Remembrance Soul Whale's soul detection range and speed up the collection of souls within the range. Upon seeing the first exclusive skill, Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. It could be said that the Soul Energy Detection allowed the Remembrance Soul Whale to collect souls more easily. This allowed the Remembrance Soul Whale to be more confident in relying on Soul not to awaken the soul's memories. As for speeding up the collection of souls, Lin Yuan felt that it was not a particularly necessary function. It did not take much time to collect souls, and the little time saved by speeding up the collection of souls was negligible. In short, the Remembrance Soul Whale's first exclusive skill, Soul Knot, was suitable for the Remembrance Soul Whale. Even if the next 2 exclusive skills were worse, Lin Yuan would still have a choice. Previously, when Lin Yuan had enhanced phase, he would enhance each phase to Elite X/Epic. However, it was not rare for Lin Yuan to see phase with 3 exclusive skills when they evolved to Bronze, and all 3 exclusive skills were useless. Now, the Remembrance Soul Whale's first exclusive skill allowed Lin Yuan to be at ease. Lin Yuan then checked the Remembrance Soul Whale's second exclusive skill, which was Soul Gather Satiation. Soul Gather Satiation. By collecting souls and digesting them into its own nutrients, it can quickly increase its strength and quality. During a battle, it can spit out the collected souls and deal a blow to the target's soul based on the strength of the collected souls. Upon seeing this exclusive skill, Lin Yuan frowned. The exclusive skill, Soul Gathering Satiation, greatly increased the speed at which the Remembrance Whale leveled up. It allowed the Remembrance Whale to increase its strength rapidly without consuming any soul-type spiritual ingredient. Although the exclusive skill could also be used with the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Knot, such a combination was contrary to Lin Yuan's purpose. No matter what, Lin Yuan would not let the Remembrance Soul Whale use the souls of people it cared about as materials to increase its strength, let alone use the souls of people it cared about as weapons. Lin Yuan didn't even think about it and gave up on the second exclusive skill that had appeared. He continued to look at the third exclusive skill. ABC. Chapter 1340. The moment he saw the third exclusive skill, Lin Yuan was stunned. Then, he could not help but laugh heartily. Lin Yuan's laughter accelerated the speed of the blue ocean current shuttling through the sea, matching with the amber sunlight reflected from the sea surface. It gave the deep ocean a vast sense of brilliance. The flow of the tide let out a pleasant sound of nature, and the entire sea region was happy with Lin Yuan's joy. What made Lin Yuan so happy was the third exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth. Burning Soul Rebirth. Through the consumption of spiritual materials filled with soul energy, the soul energy within the spiritual materials is guided into the condensed soul, using the soul energy to repair the broken soul as much as possible, making the broken soul whole. It could be said that with the third exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth, Lin Yuan's first exclusive skill, Soul Energy Detection, could only be regarded as *T. Burning Soul Rebirth used the soul energy extracted from soul-type spiritual materials to repair the broken soul. As long as there were enough soul-type spiritual materials, it could even repair the broken soul. This ability allowed the Thought Soul Whale to rely on its normal ability, soul not, to awaken the soul's memories before death with 100% certainty. This allowed Lin Yuan to communicate smoothly with the people he cared about through the soul. It was much better to communicate with a soul that had memories of its previous life than with a cold and emotionless soul. When a life form died, its soul would overflow in a short time, and the soul retained in the physical body was very limited. If the soul could be easily preserved in the physical body, the thought soul whale would not appear in a large whale fall. It could be said that after a spirit chi professional died, it was a kind of thought to collect enough soul. Compared to the fragile soul of a spirit chi professional, the soul of a high star Fae was easier to collect. No matter how long the high star Fae's physical body was destroyed, as long as the law crystal, world crystal, or immortal body in the high star Fae's body was still there, the Fae's soul could be collected from the law crystal, world crystal, and immortal body. The exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth, perfected the thought soul whale's normal ability, soul not. It allowed soul not to truly form an eternal bond between the dead and the living. Although Burning Soul Rebirth was powerful, it could not be said that the exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth, was perfect. The premise for Burning Soul Rebirth to be effective was to have enough soul-type spiritual materials. Soul-type spiritual materials were the most expensive among all spiritual materials, and even the most ordinary ones were enough to be auctioned in private. Without the soul-type spiritual ingredient exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth, he could only be considered a vase that looked good but was useless. However, this problem for most people was considered a piece of cake for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had the island whale brain oil. The quality of the island whale brain oil would increase with the age of the island whale. It could be said that the island whale brain oil collected from the bodies of large island whales was of the best quality. Lin Yuan had just obtained a watermelon-sized island whale brain oil, and he would be able to obtain 2 more. Therefore, Lin Yuan had no shortage of soul-type spiritual ingredient. Moreover, after contracting the thought soul whale, he would collect as many soul-type spiritual ingredients as possible just in case. In the future, Lin Yuan would not have fewer soul-type spiritual ingredients, but he would have more and more of them. He did not hesitate to choose his exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth. He did not stop and continued to enhance the Psyche Soul Whale. While Red Thorn was commanding the gluttonous vines to sweep the large whale's tail, Lin Yuan had been enhancing the Psychic Soul Whale. In the end, he upgraded the Soul Whale to Bronze X/Legend before he reluctantly stopped. Lin Yuan had always been pursuing an extreme in nurturing phase. It was precisely because of this reason that there was a slight gap between Lin Yuan's Fei and his strength. However, this gap was for the future. When Lin Yuan became an A-rank spirit chi professional, his Fei would immediately amaze the world when it became a myth breed. Therefore, Lin Yuan continued to be stuck at Chimey, Genius, Blackie, and the Purple Cloud grade. The Psyche Soul Whale's grade was stuck at Bronze X/Legend. When Lin Yuan comprehended a willpower rune suitable for the Psyche Soul Whale, he would choose to let the Psyche Soul Whale become a fantasy breed and a Bronze X/Fantasy I Fei. Then, he would let the Psyche Soul Whale reach silver. This was the only way to maximize the Psyche Soul Whale's potential and also for the possibility of Morbius grade increasing to the extreme. With Morbius Silver Spirit Lock in place, Lin Yuan probed Morbius. Fei name: Morbius, Fei species, Fei grade, Silver, 10/10, Fei type, Spatial/Mystery, Fei quality, Fantasy I abilities, omitted exclusive skill, omitted Silver Spirit Lock, Psyche Soul Whale, Bronze X/Legend abilities Frowny Face Soul Not. When facing a dead target's body, sing a whale cry to condense a small number of souls hidden in the target's body and awaken the target's soul. If the target has enough souls, it will awaken the soul's memories when it was alive. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Burning Soul Rebirth. By consuming spiritual ingredients filled with soul power, It can guide the pure energy in the soul-type spiritual ingredients into the condensed soul. It can use the soul energy to repair the broken soul as much as possible, making the broken soul complete. Morbius had been asleep for a long time. Lin Yuan did not have a good solution for his first partner's slumber. When the Psyche Soul Whale became a fantasy breed and reached gold, Lin Yuan's Morbius would be able to reach gold. Perhaps Morbius would be able to wake up when it reached gold. Lin Yuan had to say that he missed Morbius. When would he be able to comprehend a willpower rune suitable for the Psyche Soul Whale? Lin Yuan reached out and scratched the back of his head. To be honest, he had comprehended quite a number of willpower runes. He gave the Twilight rune he had comprehended in Millstone Town to Chimey. He gave the Yin-Yang rune he had comprehended from watching the sun and moon alternating on the blue jade heavenly horse's back, and the Myriad rune he had comprehended from watching the dragon phoenix landscape carps back to the source sand. He gave the Willpower rune he had comprehended from watching the wildfire burn the barren mountains vegetation recovery to the jasmine lily. He gave the Vast Ocean rune he had comprehended from watching the vast ocean outside Indigo Azure City to Blackie. He gave the Knowledge rune he had comprehended from reading books to Genius. He gave the Willpower rune he had comprehended from watching the silver stamen gold luster Cache's destruction and re-establishment to Red Thorn. He gave the Willpower rune he had comprehended from feeling the flow of the wind to Golden Wing. He gave the Butterfly-shaped rune he had comprehended from watching the purple firmament and the slaughtering sky butterfly fly under the sun. In addition, Silver Flower had transformed into a fairy's source-type lifeform through the fairy's heart. She had recognized Lin Yuan as her master because he was the first person she had seen when she had opened her eyes. Therefore, the contract between Lin Yuan and Silver Flower was not a two-way bond, but Silver Flower had unilaterally recognized Lin Yuan as her master. Chapter 1341. As a result, Lin Yuan was unable to let Silver Flower use the Slaughter rune. Even if the Massacre Willpower rune she had comprehended in the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift was very suitable for Silver Splendor, it was different. Lin Yuan had comprehended a total of 10 willpower runes, and it would definitely scare people to death. The prodigies of the younger generation had never heard of anyone possessing 10 fantasy breed phase. However, no matter how he comprehended willpower runes, he always felt that he did not have enough willpower runes. Apart from the ones he had already used, the only willpower rune he had left was the Massacre rune he had comprehended in the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift. Lin Yuan, who had been stuck with the Knowledge Willpower rune for a long time, knew what it felt like when he wanted to obtain a willpower rune, but the willpower rune did not come. He also understood how difficult it was to comprehend specific willpower runes. If specific willpower runes weren't hard to find, there wouldn't be so many spirit chi professionals spending a lot of money to find creation masters to customize phase that were suitable for them to comprehend willpower runes. Just now, Red Thorn had collected the ambergris whale fragrance, which could increase a living being's perception of the will of heaven and earth. The completely jade-textured agarwood could calm people down and help them think. It was Lin Yuan's favorite incense. He planned to take out the 4 pieces of ambergris whale fragrance of different textures and colors when he returned. Let's see which piece of ambergris whale fragrance we like the most. Then, the ambergris whalebone and the completely jade-textured agarwood were ground and mixed together to be used as daily incense. This way, he might be able to comprehend the willpower rune that was suitable for the soul remembrance whale earlier. If his willpower runes could not keep up, a perfectionist like him would not dare to contract new phase. If the other prodigies of the younger generation knew what Lin Yuan was thinking right now, who knew how they would feel? You've already comprehended 10 willpower runes, yet you're still not satisfied. We were overjoyed to have comprehended one. What do you take willpower runes for? Was it the cabbage on the street or the toilet paper at the head of the bed? Moreover, You're a little too arrogant and extravagant. Anyone who obtained a piece of ambergris whale fragrance would only dare to carefully make it into a pendant and hang it on their body. He borrowed the scent released by the pendant to enhance his ability to comprehend the world's will runes. Not only did you burn the ambergris whale fragrance, but you also burned it. When it was burning, it was also very picky. It had to choose the one with the best taste from the 4 kinds of ambergris whale incense. Comparisons were odious indeed. Of course, those young prodigies wouldn't have the chance to know what kind of treasure Lin Yuan had. Lin Yuan wasn't a flamboyant person, and he liked to hide his good stuff and quietly make a fortune. Right now, Red Thorn had already commanded the gluttonous vines to devour the flesh of the 3 island whales that were close to 10,000 meters long, leaving behind only 3 complete island whale skeletons. After Red Thorn finished eating the 3 island whales, the mother of Bloodbath carefully stored the 3 skeletons in the diamond face storage box. The bone oil of the island whale was similar to the brain oil of the island whale. The older the island whale, the denser its bones were. The skeletons of these 3 old island whales, who had died of natural causes, were like smooth jade, rippling on the bottom of the sea. Lin Yuan only needed a glance to determine the use of these 3 island whale skeletons. He did not intend to cut open the bones to extract the marrow, even if it would prolong the incubation time of the floating island whales. After all, the floating island whale wouldn't hatch too late just because it lacked the marrow of the 3 island whales. Perhaps the whale marrow alone was enough to hatch the floating island whale. Lin Yuan could wait, but it wasn't a problem that time could solve if he wanted to obtain the 3 island whale skeletons. The quality of the bones of the old island whales was higher than that of the adult island whales. Even if the quality was the same, Lin Yuan couldn't kill the whale to extract its bones. Lin Yuan planned to use these 3 complete island whale skeletons as pillars to build a real sky city on the floating island whale's back. After extracting the marrow, the whale bones would lose their original jade luster and become cold white. The whale bone furniture that appeared in the auction house were all whale bones that had their marrow extracted. If the marrow was sealed in the whale bones would become more and more lustrous and solid under the nourishment of the marrow. The 3 island whale skeletons would build a sky city on the floating island whale's back. On the one hand, the water elements and spirit chi released by the island whale's bones could nourish the floating island whale's skin. This would prevent the floating island whale's skin from drying up under the effect of the wind while flying at a high altitude. On the other hand, the water element energy and spirit chi of the whale bones would seep into the floating island whale's back. At that time, Lin Yuan wouldn't need to water and maintain any plant phase on the floating island whale's back. It could grow perfectly by relying on the water vapor released by the island whale's bones. The complete island whale's bones were very solid. As the skeleton of the Sky City, together with some other solid spiritual materials, it could ensure that the Sky City's body wouldn't be damaged when the floating island whale crashed into other targets. Hu Quan would probably be very excited to know that he had used the 3 island whales' complete bones to build a Sky City. At that moment, Red Thorn's grade had risen to Gold 9/Fantasy V and was just a step away from reaching Platinum. Lin Yuan put Red Thorn and the Thought Soul Whale back into the Spirit Lock spatial zone and removed the Faith Possession state to transform into his human form. The mother of Bloodbath came to Lin Yuan's side and handed over the dozen diamond face storage boxes in its hands to him. These are all the useful resources that can be collected from a large whale fall. In addition to those whale bones, I also deliberately left over 100 whale gallbladders in Red Thorn's mouth. The giant whale's gallbladder has the ability to detoxify poisons, and the island whale's gallbladder is an antidote that can detoxify the world's strange poisons. Keep these whale gallbladders. They might come in handy in the future. Lin Yuan smiled and took the face storage boxes from the mother of Bloodbath. Thank you for your hard work, mother of Bloodbath. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have any experience in teaching Red Thorn what to eat and what to keep. The mother of Bloodbath shook its head. Compared to what Lin Yuan had done to him, what he was doing now was truly insignificant. It was not worthy for Lin Yuan to express his gratitude to him. He should be the one who should express his gratitude. Given Lin Yuan's salvation, it would not be enough even if he stood in front of Lin Yuan and thanked him for 1,000 years. The mother of Bloodbath said softly. Lin Yuan, you didn't let me be polite to you previously. Why are you being polite to me now? That's right, one of the face storage boxes I just gave you contains 7 law crystals. 6 of them are at Myth I, and 2 are at Myth II. Don't be fooled by the size of these giant whales. These giant whales aren't that strong. Speaking of which, it's a pity that only one of the 3 island whales became a myth. The law crystals in the island whale's body are more than 10 times more valuable than the law crystals in the other giant whales. ABC. Chapter 1342. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up, but he did not intend to check the law crystals in the diamond face storage box here. These law crystals were the princess food, and the laws contained in them would be absorbed by her. He had plenty of time to explore after returning to the mansion, so he was not in a hurry. There was nothing at the bottom of the sea, so Lin Yuan prepared to return to the island with Lu Jie and the mother of Bloodbath. The most important thing for this trip to Shocking Wave City was to speed up the floating island whales hatching. It was really inconvenient to extract the whale marrow from the 100-odd giant whale bones in the sea. The giant whale spent most of its life in the deep sea and occasionally came to the surface to breathe. This caused the pressure in the giant whale bones to be extremely high. As long as there was a hole in the giant whale bones, the whale marrow inside would immediately be squeezed out by the pressure. The essence of the giant whale marrow was pure water elements and spirit chi, and it would quickly fuse into the sea after escaping. In order to ensure that the whale marrow could be completely absorbed by the floating island whale, it was the wisest choice to extract it on the island. Apart from bringing Lin Yuan the expected harvest, this large whale fall had also allowed him to harvest a legendary creature, the Remembrance Whale. The Remembrance Whale was definitely a pleasant surprise for Lin Yuan on this trip to Shocking Wave City. Lin Yuan, who had just returned to the island and was about to take out the whale bone to speed up the floating island whales hatching, was immediately stunned by the situation on the island. Damn! What the hell is going on? Why did Indai transform back into her true form? Why was her subordinate, the Sea King, beaten to the brink of death? He could only inhale and not exhale? Bai Yen, in his human form, was standing on Indai's body, holding a bone piece in his hand and scraping something from her body. This scene was so strange that it made one's hair stand on end. Lin Yuan had not clearly said that he had forgiven Indai. However, the meaning behind his words had already shown his attitude toward Indai. The mother of Bloodbath had forgiven Indai and would not pursue the matter. Why did Bai Yen suddenly make a move against Indai? Lin Yuan immediately shouted. Bai Yen, what's going on? Compared to Indai, Lin Yuan trusted Bai Yen more. Putting aside whether his ruler identity could scare Bai Yen or not, the light spot in his soul shrine that represented Bai Yan's faith power was not fake. Bai Yan's light of faith was extremely large. This meant that Bai Yan's faith in him was extremely deep. Right now, Bai Yan's power of faith had not weakened at all. It was impossible for Bai Yan to go against his will. Come to think of it, there must be a reason for all this. Indai, who had reverted to her true form, trembled in fear as she watched Bai Yen wantonly scrape the fine scales off her body. Indai shuddered in fear as she recalled the methods Bai Yen had used on her. Indai shouted frantically when she saw that Lin Yuan had returned to the island after collecting the large whale fall. Lin Yuan, save me. After saving me, I'll do anything you want me to. I will tell you all the secrets about the imperial mermaids and mermaids that I know. At this moment, Indai was like a rabbit that had been cornered by a tiger and suddenly saw its savior. When Bai Yen heard Lin Yuan's question, he immediately turned around and jumped off Indai's back. She said to Lin Yuan while putting the silver blue paste into the crystal bottle. Sir, you clearly said that the people on the island should not go into the sea. In the end, I discovered that this stinky fish had the intention of peeping into the sea. This stinky fish did not obey Sir's orders, so I wanted to teach this stinky fish the rules of staying by Sir's side. I wanted to let this stinky fish know the difference between superiors and subordinates, and that a servant can only do what a servant can do. Since it wants to be Sir's servant, how can a servant spy on Sir's actions? Lin Yuan was a little surprised to hear Bai Yan's words. This Bai Yan really knew how to protect him. Other than people like the mother of Bloodbath and Lu Jie, the Remembrance Soul Whale was something that only Lin Yuan knew. Lin Yuan would not let others know, and he did not want others to know. Lin Yuan looked at Yindai, who was now in human form. In human form, Yindai was as miserable as one could be. The fin behind the giant horn on her head was abnormally dim. There was also an obvious blood stain at the corner of her mouth. It seemed that Bai Yan did not go easy on her. When he saw that Lin Yuan's gaze did not blame him, Bai Yan immediately knew that his flattery had succeeded. In Bai Yan's opinion, Yindai's behavior was simply courting death. A small stinky fish actually dared to spy on Sir Ruler. You are not worthy. Living in the swamp world, Bai Yan valued life forms the most. If a dimensional life form dared to spy on an apostle, it would be sentenced to death in the dimensional world. Bai Yan, who had seen the cruel methods of the dimensional world, had just used all the methods he knew on Yindai. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly first looked at Bai Yan with fear, then walked to Lin Yuan's side and said, Lin Yuan, it is as Bai Yan said. Although Bai Yan's method is a little extreme, in my opinion, Bai Yan's method is not wrong. After saying that, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly looked at Yindai with an unfriendly expression. If it was not for its own strength being inferior to Yindai's, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly would have also stopped Yindai when she was probing the sea. As a Sea Emperor, Yindai's strength had reached the immortal level. There was no difference between standing on the island and using its spiritual power to probe the seabed, and personally going into the sea with its eyes. When he heard the Slaughter Sky Butterfly's words, Lin Yuan walked in front of Yindai. He lowered his head to look at Yindai, who was sitting on the ground, and asked, Looks like you weren't sincere when you said that before I went into the sea to collect the large whale fall. For some reason, Yindai felt a chill run down her spine when she heard this. Yindai hurriedly pleaded, Sir, I've never been someone's subordinate before. I'm used to being free and undisciplined, so I don't know the rules. Sir, please give me another chance. I know a lot of information about the Sea Emperor's 8 clans. I can tell you all about it. If you'd like to know about the internal affairs of our Yindai clan, I'll be sure to tell you everything I know. Upon hearing Yindai's words, Lin Yuan didn't forgive her immediately. Yindai's words shouldn't be false. As a member of the Sea Monarch clan, even if the Sea Monarch clan was at the bottom of the hierarchy, it was still the Sea Monarch clan. Furthermore, Yindai wasn't well liked by the Imperial tribe, so she definitely wouldn't become a subordinate of another sea tribe. But not knowing the rules was not a good thing. In particular, Lin Yuan had decided to make the Imperial mermaids and mermaids give him an explanation. There would definitely be a war with the sea race. Keeping an unruly ocean emperor by his side would only bring trouble and no benefits. Rules were things that could not be learned without a period of time. Lin Yuan did not have the time to teach Yindai how to learn the rules. Therefore, fear was the best solution. As long as Yindai's heart was filled with fear, she would think about the consequences and punishment before doing anything. Yindai wouldn't easily break the rules. Lin Yuan turned his head and asked Bai Yan. Bai Yan, what were those things that you took earlier? ABC. Chapter 1343. Hearing this, Bai Yan immediately took out a large bottle from his sleeve. The bottle was filled with a silvery blue paste-like substance. Bai Yan handed the bottle of silver blue paste-like substance to Lin Yuan and said, That's right. Sir, when I attacked this smelly fish, I found that the scales on its body were very smooth. I'm thinking of collecting some so that I can apply these fine scales on my back armor when I return to my original form and bask in the sun. It should be very comfortable. Speaking up to here, Bai Yen continued to speak as if he was presenting a treasure. "Milord, I've collected more than 30 bottles of this stuff. See if you like them. If you like them, I'll give you all of them." Upon hearing Bai Yan's words, Lin Yuan felt as though he was about to split open. Yin Dai was the sea monarch of the sovereign clan, so the thin scales on her body must be an extremely valuable water-type spirit material. Bai Yan had collected so many bottles of scales when Yin Dai had transformed into her original form. It was no wonder that Yin Dai was in such a miserable state. If Bai Yan had said that he was collecting them to increase his strength or for Bai Xian to use, Lin Yuan would have been able to understand. But who would have thought that Bai Yan would actually use Yin Dai's fine scales as a skincare product, and even wanted to offer it to her? What was the use of Yin Dai's fine scales? Was he going to use it as a scrub when he bathed? Lin Yuan's mouth twitched as he handed the bottle back to Bai Yan. "Since you're interested in these fine scales, you can keep them for yourself." After saying that, Lin Yuan took out the treasure cave golden cicada's skin and stomach pouch. "I see that you have a good relationship with Yin Dai. You've shaved off so many of his hair just now. Now it's time to comfort him. Well, come in and stay for a while." When Bai Yan heard Lin Yuan's words, he was slightly startled. He immediately grinned as he understood the meaning behind Lin Yuan's words. When Yin Dai heard Lin Yuan's words, she felt that Lin Yuan was even more terrifying than Bai Yan. Lin Yuan's terrifying image was deeply imprinted in Yin Dai's heart. In extreme fear, Yin Dai couldn't help but burst into tears. But when she saw the cold expression on Lin Yuan's face, Yin Dai didn't dare to beg for mercy from him. Yin Dai was afraid that if she opened her mouth, the youth in front of her would change his mind and treat her in a more terrifying way. Yin Dai had no choice but to voluntarily enter the golden cicada treasure cave while shivering. As for the two sea kings, Lin Yuan simply threw them in for Bai Yan to teach. The mother of Bloodbath and Lu Jie revealed smiles on their faces when they saw what Lin Yuan had done to Yin Dai. In the past, Lin Yuan had always been exceptionally tolerant and rarely lost his temper. Although this was a good quality for a person, when interacting with some people, it was inevitable that they would be considered to have no temper. He was being trampled on. What Lin Yuan had done to Yin Dai just now proved that his temperament had always been growing. From a sunny youth, he had grown into a leader. Lin Yuan had clearly given Yin Dai a chance, but she had not taken Lin Yuan's orders seriously. Since Yin Dai didn't know how precious it was when he gave her a chance, then he would use a cruel method to teach her a lesson. Otherwise, he would have indulged and forgiven Yin Dai over and over again. It would only make Yin Dai unable to see the rules clearly, lose her sense of propriety, and lose her loyalty. Only the mother of Bloodbath, Lu Jie, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, and the Void Shadow Fiend were left on the island. Lin Yuan had nothing to hide from these people, so he summoned the island whale embryo from the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Among everyone present, apart from Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly were non-marine phase and knew little about the island whale. As a dimensional life form, the Void Shadow Fiend was even more clueless. At that moment, Lu Jie keenly noticed that the island whale embryo that Lin Yuan had taken out was very different from ordinary island whale embryos. Ordinary island whale embryos were pure blue, but the one that Lin Yuan had taken out was cyan and blue, containing the aura of two elements, wind and water. Lu Jie had never seen such an island whale embryo. Lin Yuan attached his hand to the floating island whale embryo, which had long been accustomed to Lin Yuan's aura after being fed with his blood many times. As soon as Lin Yuan placed his hand on the eggshell, he could immediately feel the floating island whale inside the eggshell intimately leaning over. He could even feel the vibration caused by the floating island whale rubbing against the eggshell on the surface of the eggshell. Upon seeing everyone's curious gazes, Lin Yuan said, That's right. When I first built my faction, I decided to name it Sky City. It was not a random name, but I wanted to build my faction in the sky from the beginning. This is a mutated island whale embryo called the floating island whale. It can roam in the sky like an island whale in the water. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Void Shadow Fiend did not feel anything. After all, it was not a life form of the main world. However, Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly were stunned by Lin Yuan's words at the same time. The three of them naturally did not doubt the truth in Lin Yuan's words, but they were too shocking. Island whales in the sea and flying into the sky were two different concepts. Island whales in the sea could not set foot on land, but floating island whales soaring in the sky could. This makes the island whale a far cry from the floating island whale in terms of strategic significance. Building the faction's base camp on the floating island whale's back was equivalent to allowing the faction to descend in any corner of the world at will. It was no longer limited by territory. Lu Jie suddenly realized that he had never really understood Lin Yuan. Not to mention following Lin Yuan's ambition, he could not even imagine Lin Yuan's ambition. From the beginning, Lin Yuan's ambition was not in the Radiance Federation but the entire main world. Moreover, Lin Yuan had always been working hard for this ambition. Now that he had acknowledged the Chief Guard Knight Leaning Moon as his master, the resources he needed to increase his strength were all provided by his master. However, Lu Jie did not doubt that if he did not have his master, Lin Yuan would know that his insect queen could control the insect-type carcinoma phase. Lin Yuan would definitely help him find the insect-type carcinoma phase one by one. Lu Jie had always wanted to shelter Lin Yuan from the wind and rain, but in the end, no matter how he looked at it, it was Lin Yuan who had been using his shoulder to shelter everyone in Sky City from the wind and rain. In the end, Lu Jie did not say much, and there was no need to say anything more. If he wanted to catch up to Lin Yuan's footsteps and be his retainer knight for life, he could only work harder and harder. Lu Jie sorted out his emotions, rolled up his sleeves and said, "Lin Yuan, there are 100 whale bones. Lin Yuan, there are 100 whale bones. Let's split up and get the floating island whale's marrow." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan took out the diamond face storage boxes that the mother of Bloodbath had given him. Then, he summoned all the giant whale skeletons, excluding the island whale skeletons, from the diamond face storage boxes. Lin Yuan did not feel anything when he was at the bottom of the sea, but now there were hundreds of giant whale skeletons that were hundreds of meters long, occupying more than half of the island's area. At a glance, it was truly shocking. ABC. Chapter 1344. Lu Jie ordered the insect queen to produce a large number of shield ladybugs. The giant whale skeleton was very heavy, and the mother of Bloodbath, Slaughtering Sky Butterfly, and Void Shadow Demon could easily pick it up. However, he and Lin Yuan could not. The diamond shield ladybugs produced by the insect queen were all Hercules. 10 shield ladybugs formed a small team. It was very easy to lift the giant whale skeleton. Although the whale bone was hard, it was not difficult to extract the whale marrow as long as one found the right method. The whale bone was connected by a spine from head to tail. Below the huge skull were many ribs that formed the body. The center of the whale's skull was the most vulnerable, and there was a layer of rubber-like membrane growing on it. This thin film would not be corroded by the seawater during the whale's fall, but as long as a sharp object was forcefully pierced through, the thin film would be destroyed. The whale marrow would naturally spurt out. In order to maintain the integrity of the whale bones, Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly, and the Void Shadow Demon used this method to extract whale marrow from the island whale skeletons one after another. Lin Yuan used his body as the door and opened the Spirit Lock spatial zone with all his might. He then took out all his wind attribute Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls. The wind-type elemental shellfish was the least among all the elemental shellfish he had, but only the floating island whale could use the wind-type Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearl. It wasn't time for Golden Wing to use the wind element heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. Therefore, Lin Yuan had the most wind-type, heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Lu Jie, the slaughterer butterfly, and the mother of bloodbath watched in shock as he piled up boxes after boxes of wind-type, heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls around the floating island whale embryo. Then, he pressed his body tightly against the floating island whale's eggshell. During this process, he cut his hands again and used his blood to deepen his connection with the floating island whale. In fact, he did not need to inject spirit chi into the island whale's embryo anymore. The giant whale's marrow had a large amount of spirit chi reserves, which had reached the standard for the floating island whale to absorb. He only needed to provide the wind-type, heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. However, it was clear that there was more pure water elemental energy in the whale's marrow than spiritual energy. In order to allow the floating island whale embryo to absorb pure wind and water elemental energy to the greatest extent, he planned to cut off the absorption of pure spirit chi by the other phase in the spirit lock spatial zone, while the floating island whale absorbed the whale's marrow. When Gray had been absorbing pure spirit chi wantonly in the spirit lock spatial zone, he had been worried about the floating island whale. He had been afraid that the embryo would be affected. Now that it was the floating island whale's turn, Lin Yuan had nothing to worry about. The heaven and earth phase, the twin red pagoda, the spirit wisdom purple zoysia, and the various elemental shellfish would not be affected much without pure spirit energy. At most, the elemental shellfish would not produce elemental pearls during this period of time. Soon, the mother of bloodbath, the slaughtering sky butterfly, and the void shadow demon poured a large amount of whale marrow on the island whale embryo. A storm of wind and water elements rippled across the entire island with the embryo of the island whale as the center. Thanks to Anha's magical transformation of the island's terrain, there were no other creatures on the island except for them. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if other living beings saw this scene. After 70 to 80 giant whales' marrow fell on the floating island whale's eggshell, Lin Yuan's body, which was hugging the eggshell, keenly felt the impact of the floating island whale hitting the eggshell. This meant that the little thing in the eggshell was eager to see him. It was anxiously crying and rolling around. While feeling the floating island whale's closeness and attachment to him, Lin Yuan sighed faintly. 2/3 of the giant whale's marrow had been used up, but there was no whimper coming from the floating island whale embryo. It seemed like there was no chance of hatching the floating island whale today. It was no wonder. The growth of the floating island whale embryo required pure wind-type energy, and there was no wind-type energy at the bottom of the sea. After obtaining the floating island whale embryo, the Gao family had been nurturing it as an island whale embryo and still had not provided it with pure wind-type energy. In other words, this floating island whale embryo was only nurtured in the spirit lock spatial zone when it was in Lin Yuan's hands. It had obtained pure spirit energy, water-type energy, and wind-type energy for the first time since birth. If the floating island whale embryo could rely on absorbing these giant whales' marrow to hatch, the floating island whale embryo would not be so precious. The sea species would not treasure the island whale so much. Of course, no matter what, Lin Yuan's idea of not using the 3 island whale skeletons had never changed. If the floating island whale's marrow was absorbed by the floating island whale embryo, it would hatch within a month at the latest. Before the Radiance 100 sequence, the floating island whale would be able to hatch from its embryo and meet him. Lin Yuan had been looking forward to the hatching of the floating island whale for a long time. Ever since he had obtained the floating island whale embryo, there was not a day that he did not hope for it to hatch quickly. Without this large-scale whale fall, it would take at least 5 to 6 months to hatch the floating island whale embryo. He would need to wait at least 5 to 6 months. Now, Lin Yuan only needed to wait for another month at most. At that moment, the wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls piled under the island whale embryo were being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After consuming so many precious spiritual ingredients and the geocentric jade milk, Lin Yuan's body functions had evolved. He cut open a wound on his palm. As long as he wanted to, even without a healing type Fey to heal it, he could still use his spiritual energy to control the cells in his body to quickly recover. At present, Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to let the wounds on his palms heal. Instead, he continued to let his palms bleed. This was to deepen his connection with the floating island whale for the last time. Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, and the others helped to extract the whale's marrow from the whale bone while looking at the consumption of the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls around the floating island whale embryo in shock. With every breath of the floating island whale embryo, 80 wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls and 1.5 giant whale's marrow would be reduced. In other words, every breath of the floating island whale was equivalent to consuming hundreds of millions of radiance dollars. The floating island whale embryo could breathe almost 5 times in a minute. In 12 seconds, Lin Yuan had poured nearly 10 billion radiance dollars into nurturing the floating island whale. The consumption of resources at this speed was simply terrifying. Even the Radiance Federation's top factions could not afford it. But at the same time, Lin Yuan's efforts and gains were proportional. Not to mention the hatching speed. In terms of quality alone, Lin Yuan's floating island whale would definitely be stronger and larger than the island whales hatched by other factions. Island whales hatched naturally in the sea could easily grow to nearly 50,000 meters in length when they reached adulthood. It would be good if the island whales hatched by those top factions could reach 30,000 meters in length when they reached adulthood. ABC. Chapter 1345. This was because when the island whale hatched, the water elemental energy and spirit chi provided by the top factions were not as pure as the spirit chi and spirit chi released from the whale fall. In the eyes of the factions, the floating island whale was not treated as an ordinary Fey but as a Foundation-class strategic resource. Some factions that specialized in the sea or trade, such as the whale ocean trade, nurtured the island whale for shipping on the sea. They used the characteristic that the island whale would not be attacked by marine Feys to conduct cross-sea trade between the various federations. Therefore, the whale ocean trade did not need to be perfect when nurturing the island whale embryos. The purity of the spirit chi and water elements did not depend on the number of creation masters but on the creation master's star class. The concentration of water elements and spirit chi produced by high-class creation masters was higher than that of low-class creation masters. Any faction's creation master resources were in short supply, and they would use as much as they could. The whale ocean trade naturally hoped to hatch the island whale at the lowest cost. This could save a lot of creation master resources. The saved resources were even enough to nurture 2 or 3 new island whales. Lin Yuan was using all kinds of wind-type, heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. He had taken out a lot of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with pearls and piled them around the floating island whale's eggshell. It could be said that the floating island whale that Lin Yuan had artificially nurtured was no different from the island whale hatched from a large whale fall. In fact, the floating island whale that Lin Yuan had nurtured was better than the one that naturally hatched from a large whale fall. The elemental purity contained in the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was not something that a large whale fall could compare to. It was the current limit of a Class 5 creation master. With the consumption of over 90 island whales' marrow and 1,000 wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, Lin Yuan finally felt the floating island whale embryo tremble in place. At the same time, the floating island whale embryo's whale cry became louder. Upon hearing the floating island whale embryo's cry and the trembling of the eggshell, Lin Yuan revealed a smile. As long as the little fellow in the eggshell was strong enough to break the eggshell, the floating island whale would hatch. With the consumption of the last giant whale's marrow and the floating island whale embryo's last breath, everything on the island returned to peace. The floating island whale embryo could not leave the pure spirit chi before hatching, so Lin Yuan hurriedly sent it back to the Spirit Lock spatial zone. He then put away the unfinished Wind-type, Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls on the ground. Lu Jie said as he helped Lin Yuan tidy up the whale bones that had released the whale marrow. Lin Yuan, it seems that the floating island whale will hatch within this month. When the floating island whale hatches, building on its back will be a big project. Hu Quan, there are only 300 to 500 spirit craftsmen in the Heavenly Construct Pavilion. The underground palace beside the Divine Wood Federation can't do without Hu Quan for the time being. The swamp world also needs spirit craftsmen. Lu of Spirit Master Heavenly Craft Pavilion, I Li King, I said, he and said, of Master of Craftsman Island and Pavilion Spirit of, as he said, Li Island Land of Spirit, of, in, I as Island City Dragon Island as, of Spirit as of Island Dragon in, as in Island as Dragon Spirit as of Lin as. In fact, 500 spirit craftsmen might not be able to keep up with the development speed of the swamp world's infrastructure. No one did not want the infrastructure to be built quickly, so it was not enough no matter how many spirit craftsmen the Heavenly Craft Pavilion recruited. Moreover, it would consume a lot of resources to recruit spirit craftsmen on a large scale. Whether Hu Quan could teach them was a problem. Lin Yuan and Hu Quan had discussed this issue, and Hu Quan had said that bringing 500 spirit craftsmen at a time was already the limit. The more people he recruited, the bigger his business would be. The human heart was unpredictable, and recruiting spirit craftsmen on a large scale would inevitably attract some spies. This was likely to cause Sky City's internal information to leak out. At the border between the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation, Lin Yuan had seen goblins for the first time. Compared to spirit craftsmen, goblins were actually better at building underground palaces. 3 Class 5 goblins were comparable to a Class 4 spirit craftsman team. At the same time, goblins were very dexterous. Dimensional lifeforms like goblins might be dirty and ugly. In fact, every goblin was a master of architectural aesthetic. When some spirit chi professionals entered the underground dimensional rifts of Class 2 and above and encountered goblins, they would not kill them immediately. Instead, he tailed the gnomes and followed them back to their lair. Then, they would kill the goblin and take away the items in the goblin nest. These items made by goblins were very popular in the luxury market. Because of this, many factions with creation masters as their function issued missions in the Guild Federation. They asked adventurers to capture live goblins and buy them. The creation masters in these factions used spirit fluids to tame goblins and found that it was very difficult for humans to tame goblins. Even if it took a long time to successfully tame them, they were still not loyal and very lazy. Once they seized the opportunity, they would think of ways to escape. These factions with creation masters as their function invested so much manpower, material resources, and creation master resources, but in the end they received very little in return. Among them, the Coiling Dragon Valley suffered the most losses. When chatting with Long Tao previously, Long Tao had specifically complained to Lin Yuan about the Coiling Dragon Valley's failure to tame goblins. Even though Lin Yuan sympathized with Long Tao, it didn't mean that Coiling Dragon Valley couldn't do it. The reason why creation masters weren't able to make goblins pledge their loyalty was because they weren't able to refine source power. They could only produce spirit chi and didn't know anything about the power of faith. Spirit chi had an irresistible temptation to phase, but it was no different from a tasteless fart to dimensional lifeforms. Regardless of whether it was source power or power of faith, Lin Yuan could rely on the princess and blue sky to produce them. Moreover, Lin Yuan had also taken in a mineral vein goblin in the Divine Wood Federation and transformed it into an apostle. With the mineral vein goblin, he could directly hand them over to the mineral vein goblin for guidance. He could let the mineral vein goblin choose moldable talents to take in as believers or use totem power to transform them into favored believers. This could increase the intensity of the mineral vein goblin's power of faith, and could also pull up a completely loyal construction team for Lin Yuan. When the spirit craftsman, who Lin Yuan had invested a lot of resources to nurture, commanded these goblins, they would definitely be able to do things with twice the results with half the effort. As the Class 6-dimensional rift opened to the entire Radiance Federation, there was bound to be a transformation in the Radiance Federation. Since this was the main theme of the era's development, Lin Yuan planned to follow the call of the era. He would do his best to develop the potential of dimensional lifeforms for his own use. ABC. Chapter 1346. Lin Yuan shook his head and said to Lu Jie, "Big brother Lu, do you still remember that mineral vein gnome?" Lu Jie was slightly startled when he heard Lin Yuan's words. He immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant when he had subdued the mineral vein gnome. When he thought of Lin Yuan's miraculous means when he had subdued the mine goblins, he immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant. Lu Jie's eyes lit up. "I'll go to the Guild Federation and post a bounty to capture the gnome. The active period of the dimensional rifts has just ended, and the price of dimensional lifeforms is at its lowest in a decade. Not long ago, I saw on StarWeb that the Water World dimensional lifeform Snailclaw Snail, which usually sells for 800,000 Radiance dollars, is now being sold for 120,000 Radiance dollars. Some of the better ones can only be sold for 300,000 Radiance dollars." Lin Yuan stretched his body and said, "I'll have to trouble Big Brother Lu with this matter. Then I'll have to trouble Big Brother Lu with this matter. Let's go to Raging Wave City first and see if it has been affected because we came to collect the large whale fall. Then we'll return to the royal capital." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the killer butterfly immediately transformed into its true form. At that moment, the killer butterfly suddenly thought of Bai Yan's method of dealing with Yindai. Lin Yuan had thrown Yindai into the treasure cave golden cicada artifact for some time. If Lin Yuan did not release Yindai, even if Bai Yan did not hurt her, Yindai would likely be scared to death by Bai Yan's hands. Yindai was useful to Lin Yuan, and it would not be good for her to be scared to death by Bai Yan. The killer butterfly intended to remind Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan scratched his head awkwardly after receiving the killer butterfly's reminder. Lin Yuan had been wholeheartedly thinking about Sky City's development and had really thrown Yindai to the back of his mind. If not for the killer butterfly's reminder, Yindai would have been taken to the royal capital. Therefore, Lin Yuan opened the artifact made of the treasure cave golden cicada's skin and stomach and released Bai Yan, Yindai, and her 2 sea kings. After being released, Bai Yan bowed respectfully to Lin Yuan and said, "My lord, I've made up for what I should do. My lord, I've already made up for what should be paid and I've already apologized. In order to prevent this stinky fish from offending you again, I've also taught this stinky fish in a friendly manner what to say and how to do in front of you in the future." After saying that, Bai Yan narrowed his eyes and glanced at Yindai. When Yindai met Bai Yan's gaze, she was so frightened that her entire body quivered. He hurriedly knelt in front of Lin Yuan while shivering and kept greeting him. He didn't know what had happened in the golden cicada treasure cave, but Yindai, a sea emperor, had been reprimanded by Bai Yan to such an extent. Lin Yuan walked in front of Yindai and said softly to her, "It's good that Bai Yan apologized to you. Letting you and Bai Yan communicate inside is also to improve the friendship between you and Bai Yan. In the future, all of you will be working under me. Don't be on guard. I'll ask you again. Are you sure you want to be my servant in the future?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Yindai felt even more terrified in her heart. Even though Lin Yuan's words were sarcastic and had hidden meanings, Yindai still didn't dare to refute him. When Yindai had first seen Lin Yuan, she had been shocked by his appearance. Lin Yuan's appearance and temperament made Yindai fall in love with him. But now, Yindai's love for Lin Yuan had completely turned into fear. Bai Yen was Yin Dai's nightmare, and Bai Yen followed Lin Yuan blindly. What kind of master would have what kind of subordinate? Lin Yuan, this seemingly harmless and cheerful youth, was definitely 10,000 times more terrifying than Bai Yen. Fear was fear, but when she thought of Bai Yan's methods, Yin Dai didn't dare to neglect Lin Yuan's question. Yin Dai hurriedly said, "My lord, from today onwards I, Yin Dai, will be loyal to you and obey all your orders. My heart will no longer be towards the sea, nor will it be towards the imperial clan. It will only be towards you." Lin Yuan didn't know what Yin Dai was thinking just now, nor did he know that because of Bai Yan's methods, he had to bear such a huge responsibility. But even if he knew, Lin Yuan wouldn't mind. "Since that's the case, swear on your immortal body. After swearing, quickly return to the sea region and integrate the resources of your sea region with the resources of the Sharklight Sea region. The Sharklight Sea region is dead, and its territory is very close to yours. Before Her Majesty Hui Yao finds you, try your best to integrate the resources of the sea region. After you are found by Her Majesty, come to the royal capital to find me." Yin Dai's eyes lit up when she heard Lin Yuan's words. If that was the case, wouldn't she be able to stay by Bai Yan's side for a long time? That was simply great. Yin Dai immediately swore on her immortal body in the most pious manner and became Lin Yuan's servant. From now on, Lin Yuan could decide her life and death with a single thought. Before Yin Dai could be happy for long, Lin Yuan's words sent her into an ice cave again. Regarding the Radiant Sea Treaty, you need to testify on behalf of the Radiant Sea region regarding the Sharklight Sea's invasion of the Radiant Sea region, wanting to seize its resources and commit murder. You won't be able to stay in the sea region. In the future, the Sea Imperial 8 clans will definitely not tolerate you. Therefore, before Her Majesty Hui Yao finds you, you have to try your best to collect all the valuable things in the sea region and work under me. If you do well, I can hand over the sea region resources that I occupy to you to manage. If you don't do well, it means that you aren't capable enough. In that case, you might as well not work in the future. It's better to stay by Bai Yan's side and do what you can." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Yin Dai nodded with difficulty, while shivering. Lin Yuan's reward for her was a great one, and Yin Dai longed for her to be able to unify the Sea Imperial clan and become the Sea Empress. Lin Yuan's reward made Yin Dai see an opportunity. However, Lin Yuan's punishment for her was also a heavy one. If she stayed by Bai Yan's side, Yin Dai felt that she might as well just die. In order to satisfy Lin Yuan, Yin Dai put in all her effort. She was prepared to return to the sea region and immediately go to the Sharklight Sea's territory to kill all the subordinates that might threaten her operation. Then, she would control the subordinates of the Sharklight Sea that had submitted to her. Even if she had to plow the ground, she would clean up all the rare resources in her and the Sharklight Sea's territory within 3 days. Even when Lin Yuan and the others flew away on the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, Yin Dai was still kneeling on the ground respectfully. The 2 Sea Kings, who had no sense of presence ever since Lin Yuan released them from the Treasure Cave Golden Cicada artifact, came to Yin Dai's side and helped her up. The 2 Sea Kings knew that because of Yin Dai's choice, the 2 of them would not have a foothold in the Sea Imperial clan in the future. It seemed like they would have to work for this human named Lin Yuan for the rest of their lives. Lin Yuan rode the Slaughter Sky Butterfly to the outskirts of Raging Wave City. From afar, he noticed that there were many Spirit Chi professionals in uniforms stationed outside the city. These Spirit Chi professionals were wearing eye-catching uniforms on their faces, highlighting their identity as Spirit Guard. Upon seeing the Spirit Guards stationed outside Raging Wave City and the intact Indigo Azure City behind the Spirit Guards, Lin Yuan let out a sigh of relief. ABC. Chapter 1347. During the battle with the Shark Mang, he was confident that he could kill it, but he didn't have the confidence to control the situation. Fortunately, the previous battle did not affect Stormy Wave City. Otherwise, he would really become the sinner of Stormy Wave City. On the way back, Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and the Mother of Bloodbath all wore Sky City's standard mask. The Void Shadow Devil also merged into Lin Yuan's shadow. Lin Yuan, the Mother of Bloodbath, and Lu Jie's attire had changed. It was as though the Moon Empress disciple had never appeared on the island. There had always been an unwritten rule among His Holiness Hui Yao's disciples, which was that they could communicate with each other's whereabouts and information. Gu Lang and Zhong Zhe had mentioned an He to Lin Yuan, and Gu Lang had even told them about his conflict with an He without any scruples. However, the news of His Holiness's disciple could not be divulged to outsiders. As a disciple of His Holiness Everlasting Lantern, and he could not be unaware of this. Therefore, even if an He went to Stormy Wave City, he would not expose his identity. In fact, Lin Yuan felt that given an He's temperament, even if he really arrived at the Stormy Wave City and met the Stormy Wave City Lord or the Stormy Wave Guard Captain, Wang Su, he wouldn't be able to do anything to an He. And he would most likely not give him face and say anything. His identity as the Moon Empress disciple and everything that happened on the island would not be exposed. Lin Yuan did not plan to use his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to meet the Stormy Wave Guard Captain, Wang Su. Otherwise, it would make Wang Su suspicious and link his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to his identity as the Sky City Lord. Perhaps he would make public the fact that the Sky City Lord's identity and the Moon Empress disciple's identity were the same person. But now was clearly not the time. The transaction between Lin Yuan and Wang Su was a transaction between Sky City and Stormy Wave City. It was an equivalent transaction between factions. Lin Yuan did not wish to involve his identity as the Moon Empress disciple. If Wang Su knew of his identity as the Moon Empress disciple, he would surely inform the Stormy Waves City Lord of his identity. At that time, in order to please him, Stormy Waves City might not necessarily do anything. This was equivalent to adding a favor from his master, the Moon Empress, into the originally balanced trade between factions. Using his master's favor to negotiate a deal was not in line with Lin Yuan's principles. Originally, there were two groups of people guarding outside Stormy Wave City. One group was led by two guard envoys, the spirit-suppressing guards. One team was led by Wang Su, the captain of the Stormy Wave Guards. As the city guards of Stormy Wave City, the Stormy Wave Guards had more people than the spirit-suppressing guards led by the two guard envoys. But at the same time, the Stormy Wave Guards were much busier in Stormy Wave City. The Spirit Guard's objective in Raging Wave City was to help the Raging Wave Guard deal with the dimensional rifts that suddenly opened during the active phase. Protect the safety of Stormy Waves City under special circumstances. Now that the active phase of the dimensional rift had ended, the Spirit Guards had nothing to do for the next few days. He was preparing to report back to the capital under the leadership of the two guard envoys. But the Stormy Wave Guards didn't have time to rest. After blocking the tsunami, the Stormy Wave Guards that were temporarily transferred were sent back to their original posts by Wang Su. Just now, when Wang Su was in a stalemate with Gu En, he saw an He. Originally, Wang Su's attitude toward Lin Yuan was one of gnashing his teeth. Now that Lin Yuan had caused such a huge incident, he might lose his position as the captain of the Stormy Wave Guard. Although the cooperation with Sky City could bring a lot of help to the Stormy Wave Guard, Wang Su had wanted to add Sky City to Stormy Waves City's blacklist more than once. But from an He's mouth, Wang Su clearly heard a sentence. My friend is still on the island. Before my friend returns, no matter what happens, the Stormy Wave Guard is not allowed to go in the direction of the island. Wang Su keenly captured the word friend from an He's mouth. The Stormy Wave Guard had always had a huge shortage of high-quality bronze phase. When Wang Su had traded with Lin Yuan previously, he had only allowed Lin Yuan to nurture 200 steel spike iron muscles in one go. This was because Wang Su didn't trust Lin Yuan enough. After all, Wang Su had only heard about the trade between Sky City and the Indigo Azure Guard captain, Feng Dong, from Feng Dong. Wang Su hadn't seen the trade with his own eyes, so he didn't dare to pour out a large number of resources. If he was cheated by Sky City during the trade, the city lord would hold him accountable. Wang Su couldn't use the fact that the Indigo Azure Guard captain had also traded with Sky City as an excuse, and he had personally admitted that Sky City's city lord was his friend. The friend of His Holiness disciple was naturally trustworthy, which meant that he had vouched for Lin Yuan. Although Wang Su was still gnashing his teeth at Lin Yuan in his heart, the smile on his face was like a faintly blooming cornflower. With the guarantee of His Holiness disciple, there was no risk in the trade. Wang Su could give a large number of Stormy Wave City's orders to Sky City. If Stormy Wave City cooperated with other creation masters or factions with creation masters as their function, it would pay real money and resources. However, if Stormy Wave City cooperated with Sky City, it only needed to pay Law Origin crystals. The Law Origin crystal wasn't something precious to a big city near the sea. Since there was no offshore sea outside Stormy Wave City, it was a deep sea that was 1,000 meters deep outside the city. This made the possibility of a high-grade water world dimensional rift opening outside Stormy Wave City more than Indigo Azure City. Speaking of Law Origin crystals, Stormy Wave City could only take out more than Indigo Azure City. In addition, Stormy Wave City's Law Origin crystals had never been used. After 100 years of accumulation, they had accumulated a lot of Law Origin crystals. Moreover, Sky City's city lord was He's friend. How could Wang Su find trouble with He's friend? Most of the disciples of the Radiance Federation's holiness were over 30 years old, and there were many who were over 40 years old. According to the average age of Spirit Chi professionals in their 30s and 40s were still very young. However, they could not be considered as the younger generation. At present, there were only so many disciples of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. Bamboo Monarch's disciple, Gu Lang, Chef Supreme's disciple, Zhong Zhe, and Long Lantern's disciple, He. Including the disciples publicly announced by Moon Empress, Cicada Cry, and Bureau Chief Yi at the Nyx Assembly, the Radiance Federation's younger generation only had 6 disciples. Apart from the disciples of Moon Empress, Cicada Cry, and Bureau Chief Yi, who were newly accepted and were more mysterious, Wang Su had heard of the other 3 disciples' personalities and characteristics. Gu Lang was gentle and had an extremely good temper. Zhong Zhe was battle-hungry, cold, and didn't like to talk, but he was reasonable. And he had an eccentric temperament. He was very polite to his own people and never pretended to be polite to outsiders. It was said that he was also very arrogant. It could be said that among the 3, he was the hardest to answer correctly. And he had said in front of him that he was friends with the people on the island. If he were to find trouble with the Lord of the Sky City, if Wang Su found trouble with Sky City's city lord, he might come looking for him. ABC